This is, in fact, the first time we are having this in-person Soda Forum after almost 3 years. 2019 is when we had the last one. So thank you one and all for being here. Okay. How many of you have attended for the first time today or yesterday? Okay, that's a good number. I see that the first timers are in equal with the people who've attended before. And how many of you are students in the room? Can you just raise your hands, please? Okay, and how many of you are maybe teachers in the room? I see a few teachers, that's very good. How many in the industry, rest of them? As in, when I say industry, professional developers, architects, CXOs, and so on and so forth. Any entrepreneurs in the room, please? Running their own firm. Anybody hiring in the room? Oh, sir is hiring over there. So you know where to send your resumes, everybody. Soda Forum is a mini conference. We'll be having sessions across 4 hours. We will be conducting some sessions on the projects that we have. So it is an open source foundation and all the projects under it are open source. We will be having some sort of an introduction from some of the speakers. I'm not going to go into details of them. But what you will get here is to know about the project, how you can join as well. Also, some background about each of the projects. Maybe they will be up your alley, so you'll be able to work with us, or you might want to use it for some of your projects. Also, you will get to see some demos of how these projects are in action right now. Also, we have a few panel discussions, or maybe one panel discussion and maybe a small discussion towards the end, but we have discussions through the day as well to keep you engaged with some exquisite speakers from different companies. Also, we will be giving away prizes. So if you were participating in the quiz, you would have taken part in the online quiz or the quiz at the booth that we conducted. We'll be announcing them over here. Plus, during the course of the event, during the course of the talks, if any of you are interacting, and we encourage you to do that. How do we encourage you to do that? We'll be giving away some goodies, some chocolates, also maybe heartfelt thanks. Yeah? I think we are already over time in terms of the introduction. Let me now welcome, Let me welcome myself on screen first. My name is Anvit KS. I am a system architect at Huawei, but I'm also a member of the outreach committee here at the Soda Foundation. So outreach committee, most of the time I'm talking to people, talking to you, people like you, developers, maybe not developers, but who are interested in contributing to open source and spreading the good word of open source and Soda Foundation. But today I'm going to be your maitre d', I'm going to be your host, the master of ceremonies. I will take you through the sessions and probably survive it along with you. Okay, and some bad jokes here and there to try and keep you awake, if not laughing, at least cursing me for cracking those bad jokes. Okay, all right then, with that, for the first session of the day, container to multi-cloud, setting the contest, we have with us Dr. Kahu Munegoda, the Vice President, SecDB Engineering at Goldman Sachs, and he's also a technical oversight committee member at the Soda Foundation. And along with him, we have Sanil Kumar D, the Chief Architect and the Head of the Data Management Team at Huawei, and the Soda Foundation TOC Co-Chair, going to talk to you about setting the context. Over to you, Sanil.
Good afternoon. Okay, that's good. After Anvit, whoever speaks, right, we will get more energy. So this setting the context is nothing but why we are having a forum with a name container to multi-cloud. That's it. Okay. Any of you attended the keynote in the morning? Okay, please excuse. Most of the slides are repeated. Okay, so this session we just try to understand that what brings this mini conference here, the context in which we are doing it, and also the sessions we have planned in such a way that it starts with 101. Anyone, you understand 101? Basics, yes. So we start with container 101, then multi-cloud 101, and then we go on with a panel discussion. The panel's view on whether the container and multi-cloud areas are important or not. And then we will see the details of our projects and how you can contribute and be part of it. Okay. Okay, so this slide is a repetition. So why this container to multi-cloud is important? Because it's self-explanatory. 85% of applications will be running on in production by 2025 on container. Okay, not me telling. This is the industry report says. That's about container. And for the multi-cloud strategy, 82% of the organizations are thinking about multi-cloud strategy. That means either they are already using more than one cloud or they are thinking to use more than one cloud. That's why they are thinking about multi-cloud strategy in their organizations. And the last but not the least, 78% is already using more than 3 clouds. Whoever is using cloud, they are using more than 3 clouds. So that means developers like us or architects or solution guys or business people, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be in container or multi-cloud area. Okay, what is SODA? Again, this also a repeated slide. SODA Foundation is a foundation which tries to consolidate projects, open source projects, for data management under one umbrella. And we are part of the Linux Foundation. Linux Foundation is one of the top 1 foundations in the world for open source projects. If you know Kubernetes, Kubernetes is part of Linux Foundation under CNCF. Similarly, Prometheus, Core DNS, anything cloud native projects, you name it, more likely it will be part of CNCF or Linux Foundation. So SODA Foundation is under Linux Foundation, handling data management kind of projects. Okay, we have multiple projects hosted by us, and also we have projects hosted by other companies or organizations. They are joined to build a combined solution. Okay, so this is the architecture. So in one line, I don't want to go into the details because we don't have enough time for that. Our vision is any platform to any storage with a unified interface. This is our dream. Okay, it's very ambitious. Why? Because when you say platform, the platform can be Kubernetes, it can be VMware, it can be OpenShift, it can be OpenStack, and so on and so forth. When you talk about storage on the south side, it can be vendor storage, it can be software-defined storage, or cloud storage, or edge, right? I think there are different kinds of storages in different types, storage class, etc., right? So it is not that easy. So this is a logical architecture vision what we have. To fulfill this, we have different projects. Okay. So we'll see, we have 2 types of projects. One is SODA Framework project, which is managed, maintained by SODA Foundation. Okay. So these projects are generally the key framework components. The key challenge is what is faced by the users or industry. We try to understand that through our end user committee and then build solutions for that, majorly on the framework projects. And the second one is the Echo project. These are the projects which I mentioned that this can be maintained by CNCF, Linux Foundation, Apache Foundation, or individual persons maintain, like Keshava, maintaining SBK, is part of SODA Foundation. Why they join? They join seeing that there is a synergy and we can work together to build solution, end-to-end solution. We don't need to reinvent. That's the beauty of open source, right? Okay, and SODA Foundation, morning we discussed that SODA Foundation is not just one company-owned kind of thing. It's a non-profitable organization. We have 29 companies part of it. From India also we have different companies part of it. Wipro, CCICA, standard organizations, vendors, solution providers, so on and so forth. So in the morning, I think in the keynote, I have shared some of their views. So I thought a few of those views to you before we set the context, because they also have a feeling that whether this makes sense, this is a direction, right direction or not. Okay, so we'll start with Huawei. So Huawei is one of the founding members of SODA Foundation. Not only SODA Foundation is a transformation of OpenSDS. Earlier, The project was named as OpenSDS, started in 2016 with Vodafone, KPN, Huawei, NTT, Toyota, some 5, 6 companies. They joined together to build this solution. And in 2020, we made it as a foundation because we believe that there are a lot of projects and solutions required to meet our vision. Okay? So let's listen to him, what he feels.
Source foundations like Linux Foundation, Apache Foundation, and so on. We actively work to support technology development in the community. We are happy to see the growth of Soda Foundation from OpenSDS, and it's a great feeling to be founding an active member of OpenSDS since 2016 and Soda Foundation since year 2020. Today, all technologies, be it big data, cloud, edge, AI/ML, blockchain, are heavily data driven. Hence, it is important to have unified open data framework solutions in the industry. It can really help to build more business use cases faster and competitive. Storage and data management areas are important for Huawei as well. We see a huge potential in the vision and roadmap of SODA. Some of the projects like Kahu for container data protection, Strato for multi-cloud data management, Delfin for heterogeneous storage monitoring, and Como for data lake are really future looking. This direction of unified data management, especially for container and hybrid cloud use cases, is very much aligned with industry trend. Also, it is very useful to our products. Soda Foundation vision, one data framework, and infinite possibilities can be realized only by more collaborative efforts. The open source ecosystem in India has been very vibrant. We see a very good growth in Soda community in short time. Thanks to all the community members who support Soda. We are looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks to Arvind for that video. He could not join physically today. So you might have already noticed that he also mentioned about container data protection, hybrid data management, hybrid cloud data management and all. So most of the top organizations who are working in this space, it is important. So we need to watch out. Next, my friend Keshav. He has been working with us quite in different aspects. He's part of the TOC as well. And he has his own project in open source called SBK, Storage Benchmarking Kit, and today it is part of Soda. Welcome, Keshav.
Thank you, Sani. Hello, everyone. Okay, it's great to see a lot of techies, definitely. Okay, so one thing is, thanks for accepting SBK as one of the Soda Eco project. Just to set the context, in that sense, I think the first part of the context is already set. I think most of you people already know Soda. And now what we are doing, it's that also I think most of you people know. So in next few hours, we actually start with what is actually the containers. So basically nowadays, whatever that you write, everything should become containerizable. That's a trend, right? So why we do that? The main intention there it is, whatever that you write, so it should not be differentiated something like whether some student has written, whether it is some professional developer has written it. So it should be the production ready. So moment any software, anything which is deployable to the cloud, that makes the container, isn't it? So, okay, your container is optimized for one cloud. I want to make it for other cloud vendors also. That's where the multi-cloud comes in. There are a lot of opportunity trends that we're going to discuss in next few hours. And of course, the another intention of the whole track, it is to gain and inspire, encourage the new developers, fresh developers out of the college as open source. Open source, not just as something like the part-time, it should be a part of our culture, something, a new idea. You never know when it's going to click. So that is the one. For example, SBK. So if you want to know anything on the storage thing, the very first thing is we might study some documents. We try to figure out the APIs, like how do you write the data to some storage system? How do you read it back, isn't it? So this is, you can actually use some of the much more decorated, well-designed tools or a framework like SBK, where you just attach your APIs, storage APIs, and try to see what it happens. try to see how it resolves the system, try to see how the performance numbers are gained. So this is one way of learning. So I welcome all. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
So the next one is Data Core. When I say Data Core is not an Indian company, but we started collaborating with a project called OpenEBS. Any of you know about OpenEBS? Okay, it's a container attached storage kind of a thing. Akhil, you must be knowing, right? Why? No, please. Okay. Okay, he's one of the maintainers, so you can meet OpenEBS maintainer also here. So he'll be talking about containers. He's the right person to talk about container. Recently, the OpenEBS was part of Maya Data. It's founded by an Indian. So Maya Data was a member of Soda Foundation, and we have been collaborating quite a lot. Recently, Maya Data got acquired by DataCore. But Maya Data has the DataCore developer today. There are many developers in Bangalore and also in India, right? So I thought it's a nice thing to hear from DataCore chief scientist that what he thinks about OSI and sort of foundation today. So let's hear from him.
At Datacore Software, and I'm also a tech lead for the CNCF Storage Technical Advisory Group. It's a pleasure to be here as part of this conference and to be speaking about our involvement with the Soda Foundation. Over the past few years, I've had the privilege of working closely with the team from Maya Data, who created OpenEBS, the leading open source container attached storage solution, which is part of the Linux Foundation and also a Soda Eco project. I'm pleased to say that in order to support the further development of this project, Datacore have acquired Maya Data and have been able to combine the two Bengaluru-based engineering teams into one centre of excellence. Since then, we've seen the release of OpenEBS 3.3, including the new production-ready MayaStore data engine delivering NVMe-grade performance. Datacore will be continuing to invest in OpenEBS with future releases including high availability enhancements, snapshots, and thin provisioning. This is an open source conference, but why does open source matter? Well, here's an example from a recent security conference. Security is increasingly becoming a key concern with high-profile data breaches and a changing legal environment. A speaker from Open UK argued compellingly that our infrastructure needs to be open source because no other model can offer our societies the visibility and threat protection that we need for these critical resources. As well as investing in OpenEBS, Datacore is actively involved with digital security by design and the ARM Morello project to create future architectures that are secured from the ground up. As an industry, we're in the middle of a significant transformation. We're moving away from a world with silos of compute and storage to one where applications need to run across the entire ecosystem, ranging from the data center through to multi-cloud, edge, and IoT. This is being fueled by containerization and the adoption of Kubernetes as the control plane for the enterprise. One of the key challenges is still the management of persistent data in a world where the infrastructure is ephemeral. This isn't something that a single company can do on their own. It takes a community, and that's why we joined the Soda Foundation several years ago. There's a need for common abstractions and reference implementations covering the cloud-native space. There's plenty of opportunity here. The Soda Foundation is uniquely positioned with people from different backgrounds, skills, and experience. I'd encourage you to get involved. Hope you have a great conference.
Thanks to Nick for that video. So how to join and all these things will be further talked because that is the track we have in the afternoon. So I'll not get into that. But what is there? Okay. So what is cloud? What is container? This is also a repeated slide from my keynote. So what is the real container or what is the cloud? It's up there or up here. We will see in the subsequent sessions here. Please enjoy and thanks a lot for joining this session by Soda. Thank you.
setting the context, and also thanks to all the speakers who came to us on video. We appreciate you taking the time, and also, okay, I think the HDMI was making sound there. All right, let's quickly dive head first into the first series of talks. And as Sanil mentioned, we'll be having some 101 talks. 101s are basics. So to kick things off, we'll start with the Container 101 talk. We'll be discussing the basics of container technology and its evolution. And here for that is Akhil Mohan, who's the member of technical staff at VMware and also a GSOC mentor. And along with him will be Savita Ashture, a senior software engineer at Red Hat. Unfortunately, Savita could not travel to be with us here today, so we will be having her on video, but handle all the questions post the session as well. So over to you, Akhil.
Of the basics of container, and we will go through it.
Basics of containers and Kubernetes. Myself, Savita Ashture, working at Red Hat as a senior software. Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the basics of containers and Kubernetes. Myself, Savita Ashture, working at Red Hat as a senior software engineer. So this is the pretty much agenda we have it for today. Let's talk about the overview of virtual machine and its challenges, overview of container and its challenges, container orchestrators, Kubernetes, core resources, architecture, and finally the extensions. Now, when we talk about the virtual machines, it's basically a compute resource that uses hypervisors to run the programs and deploy the apps. Now, if you take on the bare metal, there will be a hypervisor installed and it does the virtualizations. Each VM has its own OS and the functionality, which is not known to other VMs, though they are on the same host machines. So this is a better way, isn't it? The better way to deploy your microservices, right? But it has its own challenges. Let's see those. So it has a high infrastructure cost, operational overhead, inefficient in the resource utilization, but it has a lot of advantages. Because of those advantages, sometimes we ignore the challenges of VM and just go ahead with the VMs. But what if we want to overcome these challenges? How do we do that? Let's make use of the containers. Now, container is a software which packages your executable code and the dependencies. It could be libraries, configurations, whatever it is, which is required for your application or your code to be runnable state. So let's take in VM. In that, there will be operating system. To run the containers, we require the container runtimes, which is managed by this container engine. And each VMs can have one container or multiple containers. So this way, running multiple containers within a same VM, we can avoid the operational cost and make use of the resource very efficiently by providing how much memory and CPU it requires for the each containers. And then we can avoid the boot time because containers start very fast. It doesn't require time. And then another is like, how do we handle operational overhead? Because containers, once it is packaged, it can be run anywhere. So this way we can avoid the operational overhead here. So now, how it works? So if you take in terms of Docker, containers is a running instance of image. Now, what is image? It's an immutable file which consists of a code and the dependencies. Now, how do we build this image? Using the Docker file. It's basically a text document which contains all the instructions which are required to build it. Now, how Docker derive all these concepts? It's from the Linux kernel, which is namespace, C groups, etc. As I talk, like runtime engines, there are many like Rocket, Container, DCRIO, but those are all part of this OCI and CRI. And any one of them we can make use of based on our use cases. Each tech stacks will have pros and cons. Similarly, container has its own challenges. Those are like, how do we manage a large number of containers? How do we handle the failure of the container state? How do we do the networking and storage management part? So all these things are overcome using the orchestrators. So basically, it's a tool which does automation to handle the containers lifecycle issues like scaling, deploying, load balancing, and many more. There are many orchestrators today, but let's talk about the Kubernetes, which is most widely used everywhere. Kubernetes is an open source project which comes with very useful features of like excellent scheduler, and it does the resource management by deploying a large number of containers and make sure that the containers always available by by the provided configuration and all those stuff. So basically, it's kind of a platform today for many of the containers. Okay, so it has many more concepts, but within this span of time, it's very difficult to cover all those things. So I just took the very basic core resources. With these core resources, we could able to deploy a application and access it. So let's understand these. We already talked about the containers. Let's move on to pod. Pod is the smallest unit in a Kubernetes which contains a number of containers. It could be one or more than one, and it shares the namespace and files. Now, to manage this pod, I mean, how to scale the pod, how to recover the terminated pods, how to bring the pod back to the running state. All these things are controlled and managed by another resource called deployments. So basically, we can say that deployment is kind of a parent and it maintains its child as a pod. I'm just I'm just comparing that terminology, but it's not the exact same thing. But thing is like consider deployment kind of a watcher who always watches for the pod and tries to maintain the state, like actual state to the desired state. Let's suppose if I give always there should be 3 pods to be running, then it's the responsibility to make sure that those 3 pods are running. Okay, now we deployed our application, but I want to access it, right? So how do I do that? I can make use of the pod IP and access it, but what if that pod goes down? The IP will change, right? Then it is difficult to access and we always get the 404 not found. So to avoid these kind of issues, we have another object called service. So basically, it has a group of pod IPs and port, and it maps to the service, maps to the DNS name, and that will be given to the end user so that they can access. The accessibility provided across the cluster, within the cluster, or outside the cluster as a publicly available. So those things are handled by service types. Now, how do we store the data within a pod for different containers? How do we share the data among them? So that can be done using volumes. In a volume, we have types like ephemeral and persistent. So in ephemeral types, data will be stored until the pod is running. And in the persistent way, data will be there in a permanent. I mean, like if you have a scenario where you want a data until the pod is running, then go for a ephemeral. But you want a data to be stored even though there is no cluster, there is no pod, then go for a persistent. So we have.
So about this persistent volumes, like we will be talking more about in the next session, where I will be talking about container storage interface, which is like an extension of Kubernetes, which you can use to interface with like more storage providers to give access to containerized workloads.
Number of options provided for the persistent volume to be achieved. Now, now let's cover the overview of the architecture. When we say Kubernetes, it has a master and node, right? Each master has a control plane modules and node has the other modules. Okay, so always it is preferred that user containers will not be running in the control plane in order to avoid the complexity, in order to avoid the issues because of some configuration stuff and all. So it's always preferred master will have only control plane components, right? And the user containers and different modules components will be there in the node, which is a worker machine. So let's talk about those control plane now. The first one is the API server. This is the gateway to your Kubernetes control plane. All the API requests will go through this API request, and this is the only module which connects to everyone. Okay, and and it does the horizontal scaling in order to handle many requests. And we have a etcd, like we does a lot of operation, like there should be someone who stores the data, so that is done by etcd. And we have a controller managers, like we saw the service deployment, right? They are kind of a process or watcher, right? They run some controller inside that. All those controllers as a process will be kept in a single process, as a single process, in order to avoid the complexity. So those things are part of control manager. So basically it contains node controller, which does the node related operation, deployment controller, which does the deployment related operations. So basically in controller manager, we have lot of controllers, does a separate functionality. And then we have a scheduler. So what does they do? Whenever a pod comes to a Kubernetes cluster, it's the responsibility of the scheduler to see whether that pod is allocated to any of the node. If not, it's the responsibility of the scheduler to decide where that pod should be scheduled. So this scheduler does some very complex stuff and calculate the resources. It does the very business logic and does all those stuffs, and finally schedule the pod to a respective node, whichever is suitable, and then responds back to the API server. Then we have a cloud controller manager. It's basically embeds the logic, which is in order to integrate with the cloud providers like Azure, AWS, GCP, etc. Then moving on to node, we have a kubelet which runs on each node, and it's the only module which connect with the API server which is in the master. So the connection between node to the master will be done by kubelet, and it also maintain the runtime status of the container. And then we have a kube proxy which is also runs on all the node, and it is responsible for the service object, and as well it has its own network rules, and that network rules will be used for the networking connection from within or outside the cluster. So this is pretty much about the architecture and explanation of each modules or components of a Kubernetes. Moving on, like as I said, Kubernetes is becoming as a platform which does a lot of operation. So it is not feasible to have one solution for each, like one solution for networking, one solution for storage, one solution for compute. In that case, its functionality becomes very limited. So that's why it has an extension mechanism where we have lot many networking solution provided today which can be integrated easily with the Kubernetes. So these extension like storage and all, we will see further in the next calls and all, or we can say in the next demos. And now I would like to stop here, and I would like Akhil to take over from here and start talk about the further stuff which is part of this containers.
So taking over from Savita. Yeah, so like she has mentioned about like your Kubernetes extensions for like compute, networking, and then storage. So like for the compute, you have the container runtime interface, so called CRI. Then for networking, you have the container networking interface that is called CNI. And then for the storage, you have the container storage interface that's called CSI. So like we will be diving more into CSI. So what's actually CSI? So CSI is actually a standard for exposing arbitrary block and file storage to container orchestrators, to containerized workloads by container orchestrators like Kubernetes. So what's the main use of this is like you can say, as earlier mentioned, like you have persistent volumes, and like these persistent volumes need to store data somewhere, and like this data is actually stored in their storage that is provided by some storage vendors, and like these storage vendors actually interface via CSI to the container orchestrator. So basically CSI, you can say it's like a standard set of APIs which any storage vendor can implement, and then Kubernetes or any container orchestrator can then make use of it. So why do we actually need CSI? So like in the earlier days of Kubernetes or like container orchestrators, like you had Nomad and all, like each vendor, for example, like AWS, Google, and VMware, everyone had like their own APIs for creating volumes. There was a set of APIs for like AWS to create EBS volumes. There was a different set of APIs for like creating Google G Cloud buckets and volumes. there was actually no standardized way for consumers to create volumes and like store data and like make use of it. So that's one reason why we need a standard for creating volumes and like using it. And another reason like why we moved to a common interface was that, so in the initial days of Kubernetes, since like every vendor had like different APIs, all of this code was like actually built into Kubernetes itself. That was like inside the core Kubernetes code itself, like everyone was maintaining their own specific code for like the volumes. So this was like actually creating a lot of trouble because like since the code was in the main Kubernetes tree, a single failure with a vendor code or like a bug in the vendor could actually crash the main Kubernetes itself. So that was like one reason. And another one was like fixing these bugs actually needed like you need to create a new Kubernetes release so that like consumers can use it. And then pushing features also was an issue. And like, so when we move to CSI, like you can see in the Kubernetes official docs, like you can see that like currently there are over 60 plus vendors that provide storage which can be utilized by Kubernetes for containerized workloads. So then like what's really under the hood of CSI? So like in Kubernetes, if you know about Kubernetes, so like, and also like as Savita previously mentioned, every component in Kubernetes talks to the API server, and that's how like everything interacts. But in CSI, like there is a slight difference. So like in CSI, all the communication happens via gRPC. And like there are a bunch of components which help us to plug the storage into Kubernetes itself. So like you have the core Kubernetes component that was explained in the Kubernetes architecture, and then you have a bunch of external components that is maintained by the Kubernetes team itself, and these are the external components which help make Kubernetes a pluggable architecture, and like storage vendors can actually plug their components into this. So like you can see like there are 3 components that are mentioned, like you have the driver registrar that is for the Kubernetes to know that, okay, there is a particular CSI driver that is capable of providing storage, and the driver registrar makes Kubernetes knows that, okay, someone like this is existing. Then you have the external provisioner. So what external provisioner actually does is, the external provisioner actually communicates with the API server and then to the gRPC part of the gRPC API of the CSI driver. So this actually acts as an interface between the Kubernetes components and the CSI driver. Then the attacher is actually for like mounting the volume and all those stuff. Now the external component, that's like the one mentioned in the red, that's like, these external components are like each storage vendor has to create and maintain these 3 components if their storage has to be CSI compliant, so that like Kubernetes can make use of it. So you have the CSI identity service that is like just for saying, okay, we have a driver available and letting it to the driver registrar. Then the CSI controller actually handles the calls for like creating volumes and like other operations, like, okay, you want to create a snapshot of a volume or like clone of a volume. Then the CSI node is actually a plugin that rests on each of the node where you actually want to access the storage. So the CSI node takes care of like, okay, if you want to format the volume before using it, the CSI node takes care of formatting it and mounting it. So that's it. And then like a rough working of the CSI. So I have abstracted in the images like the external components and the core components into a single picture, and like the third-party components are like what mentioned in the node plugin and the CSI controller. So like whenever you have a request for a persistent volume, so like from the API server, a call comes to the CSI controller, and the CSI that will be a create volume code, and from there the CSI controller takes over and talks to the storage provider. So this communication between the controller and storage provider can happen either over gRPC or like Kubernetes primitives like custom resources. This is like completely dependent on how the storage provider want to implement it. So based on the create volume request, the storage provider will create a volume. Maybe it may be like an AWS EBS volume or like a Google Cloud volume. So once the volume is created, the next step is that whoever the pod that wants to use it should be able to access it. For that, first the volume should be available on the node where the pod is being scheduled. So for that, like the API server again talks to the kubelet, and the node plugin talks to the kubelet. Kubelet. And from there, like the node plugin attaches that volume to the node. That is via the external attacher. And from there, it performs the formatting operation and the mount operation. And finally, the volume will be available inside the client pod. So this is a rough working of the CSI. Yeah, that's it.
Sir, previously you said all the communication through Kubernetes go through one API, right?
Yeah, API
So,
server.
are there any issues with overloading of traffic and any managing of that stuff with loaders?
No, so the API server is actually like you have like multiple deployments of the API server running. So like it's written in such a way that like you assume that the API server, etcd, and the other components will not crash. So that means like your cluster is completely down. So it's always highly available. So there won't be a load contention issues there. Yeah.
Okay, so and there won't be any networking problems in
No.
connecting containers to ports, right? Service
Container,
ports.
I didn't get the question.
Like in the previous slide version of thing, you said yeah, like yeah, before this actually there were pods. For managing pods we have services and then container Kubernetes, right? So are there any mismatches between target ports and the normal ports we have? Like there was a recently I read in an article that people usually confuse between the target port and normal port. Is the
Target port, you mean like the port from where the storage is coming?
container from the container?
So container is actually inside the port.
Okay.
I didn't get like what you meant by target port.
Well, I thought maybe each container has a specific target port which need to be connected to the
So-
service to be able to run.
I think you are talking about the services, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in service, we say the target port, meaning is that you are basically targeting to the particular application, on which application that is running. So that we declare in the target port. Okay.
Okay.
But whatever he is saying that it's not related to the CS and all. It's in a normal networking also in the Kubernetes. We will have the services, and services. Why we need services? As Savita was explaining that due to the maybe pod goes down. So you will have the record. You should have the record where the actually I was transferring the call to the application previously before no ports goes down, right? So target port is nothing but directly targeting to that application on that where on which port the particular application is listening before port goes down and after port comes up also. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Savita, and thank you so much, Akhil. But before you leave, can we have Keshwa on the stage, please? A big round of applause for Akhil and Savita. Unfortunately, Savita is not here today, but I'm pretty sure everybody had a good, you can just step forward. Yeah. And thank you once again. Thank you so much, Keshwa. All right, from container to multi-cloud. Well, we did container 101, so let's do multi-cloud 101. And for the session, we have with us Shivai Lamba, who's a maintainer at Layer 5. He's also a contributor to Soda. In fact, we met Shivai at one of these events at the Soda forum, at Kubernetes forum we had at New Delhi. And he's been a part of this ecosystem ever since. He's been helping us at events and speaking at many of them as well. Along with him, we also have Rahul Jadhav. Rahul Jadhav is the co-founder and VP of engineering at Equinox company. They will be talking about Multi-Cloud 101. Over to you, Shivai and
presenting
Rahul.
today about Multicloud 101. Now, of course, if you have visited the Soda booth, you might have gotten a brief understanding of what Multicloud really means. But for those who did not get a chance to visit our booth, we'll be sharing about what exactly is Multicloud and how so many companies today are adopting to a multi-cloud strategy. Now, before we jump into the multi-cloud itself, right, we'd like to focus on First, we'll just look at some of the common deployment models for cloud computing. So the first one is private cloud, right? So a lot of these clouds, they are completely secure, and they are usually meant for companies who are running these clusters locally in their own environments. And then we have public clouds. These are more open and pay per use. So common clouds such as AWS, GCP, these are using the public cloud model. And then we also have hybrid clouds where some companies might use both the private clouds and also the public clouds for their specific use cases. So different companies will have different ways of using them. Again, depending on the architecture of the company and the business strategies, they will usually choose between one of these. So that kind of brings us to the next slide, which is what exactly is multi-cloud, right? So you didn't see multi-cloud in the first slide, and we'll explain the main differences between hybrid cloud and multi-cloud as well. But the primary definition of multi-cloud is that you can use multiple cloud providers in order to create your cloud strategy, right? And essentially what you can do is that you can take multiple services, different services from different cloud providers and use them according to you. And there are a lot of different benefits that we'll also cover. Now, you may ask, like, what's the difference between hybrid cloud and multi-cloud? So the biggest difference is that whenever we talk about hybrid cloud, it usually involves using cloud providers, like different type of cloud providers. That means like both public cloud and private cloud. Whereas usually in most cases, whenever we are talking about the multi-cloud, we are usually looking at only same type of clouds. So you might be using, let's say, same type of public clouds such as AWS and GCP. Although multi-cloud can support private clouds as well. So what is the biggest benefit of multi-cloud? Now, if we take an example of just one cloud provider, let's say AWS, GCP, you might come across, especially if you're involved in this entire cloud ecosystem, you might come across this terminology such as a vendor lock-in. So primarily to grow the business of each and every cloud provider, they want you to be in their ecosystem. So AWS would want, of course, for its customers to just use AWS and all of the different services. And while this is good if you are, because of the platform, you are having interconnected services. But at times, there are a lot of different disadvantages of having this vendor lock-in. Because let's say if there is a certain upsurge in the price and it does not, directly is in tune with your costs management as well. So there you could have issues where, you don't want to continue to using that particular cloud provider, you want to migrate to another cloud provider. And there are no easy solutions that can actually help you to migrate your data from, let's say, one cloud provider to another cloud provider. So that is where the multi-cloud really shines, is that basically you get the flexibility to choose which particular features or which particular services that you want from one cloud provider, and you can pick and choose the best ones according to you. Now, that has some really good benefits in terms of pricing, that you have flexibility in terms of pricing, in terms of performance, based on your applications that you're building. And then, of course, what you can also do is that you can pick the best technology that you want, again, because there are certain differences between, let's say, similar type of services as well provided by the different type of cloud providers. So you can pick and choose the best services that are best for your use cases that you define for your cloud strategy. And the biggest one also that we commonly see is that you might have heard, we hear these news from time to time that certain cloud providers, they go down for hours and hours, and that can really affect a lot of businesses. So because of the fact that if you're having multiple cloud providers inside of your applications, in case, let's say, one of the cloud providers goes down for a few hours or for some time, you have at least still some disaster control that you can do, because the other cloud providers will still be working. So you have reduced vulnerability in terms of outages or downtime that can be there for these cloud providers. And what are some of the benefits that you get once you are adopting to a multi-cloud strategy? So, well, of course, the first one is better return on investment, because you're kind of pick and choosing the best services according to your budget. And then you also get a more reliable architecture, because, again, the cloud architects who will be working to pick and choose the services will do it in such a way that they are able to reduce the chances of downtime, right? And of course, you will have better disaster recovery as well. And this kind of brings us to the entire topic of cloud data management. So far what we have discussed is that what are the different strategies in which you can adopt your cloud practices. But of course, whenever we discuss about cloud, storage is the number one thing that is also really important, because any application that you build will have storage, right? So the key idea is that, of course, whenever we talk about, let's say, on-prem storage or even cloud storage, both have a similar type of a model on how basically storage behaves, right? So with with cloud storage also, you'll have to purchase some storage and then you can actually use it. So there are different types of storages as well that we have. We have like object storage, we have file storage, we have block storage. All of them are, I mean, fundamentally they store the data, but the way that they store the data is slightly different, right? In object and in basically the object storage, we break down our main file into different chunks where we assign individual object IDs to each and every small part. And similarly in file storage, we take one file, at the entire file, and we just store it inside of folders. So there can be different type of storages, object storages that you might have. And in order to maintain them, that's what cloud data management is like all about. And when it comes to adopting this strategy of cloud of data management across multiple clouds, that's across the multi-cloud data management, that's where the key challenges such as ensuring that the data integrity is maintained, and we are maintaining the security policies and any kind of dependencies that might be there across these multiple cloud platforms. Those are some of the key challenges that we would like to actually solve with the help of the multi-cloud data management. And we'll talk about the Soda Foundation Strato project as well later on, and how that actually deals with some of these multi-cloud data management challenges and how it shines to be able to manage your data across multiple cloud providers. But before we cover that, I would like to invite Rahul now to talk about multi-cloud Kubernetes.
Thank you very much, Shivai. Thank you, Akhil, and thank you, Savita, for setting the stage for this. I'm going to talk about multi-cloud Kubernetes. But before talking about multi-cloud Kubernetes, let me just give a brief introduction about myself. I'm co-founder of Aquinox. We are working on cloud security, zero trust runtime security to be very precise. We are 100% Kubernetes organization, which means all the solutions that we are developing are Kubernetes native to begin with, and then we have extended to containerized as well as virtual machine and bare metals as well. So what are the challenges? 10 years before, 20 years before, we had the same problems where we had the virtual machine sprawl everywhere. We had virtual machines all over the places, and we had the same problem of how to manage those virtual machines. The same problem is happening with Kubernetes now. We have clusters coming up in all the places. Every organization, you cannot deal with a single cluster. At some point in time, you need multi-tenancy. Most of the organizations, what they do is they end up using a different cluster for individual customers or for a different department. So at the end of the day, you end up having multiple clusters across geographical regions, and then you have a DevOps team which has to manage all these clusters. So essentially, there are 2 days in the life cycle of any cluster. There's day 1, wherein you have to provision the cluster, and that provisioning might happen across multiple regions. How do you do that? There are a set of tools available, most of the popular tools. I'm pretty sure if anyone has been using Kubernetes, they would have heard about Terraform. That is one of the key tools that is used for multi-cluster provisioning. And there are a set of others as well, like I've mentioned here, in case of Google Cloud, Amazon EKS, all these players have a way to support multi-cluster deployments. Day 1 is a relatively easy job to handle. The problem is with day 2 operations, wherein once you have the clusters in place across multiple regions, how do you manage them? You have to have data synchronization, you have to have policy synchronization, you have identity and access management systems, because your users are going to be same across multiple clusters. How do you deal with all these problems? That's the problem with day 2. That's the problem that day 2 needs to solve. And you'll see some of the solutions mentioned below. My aim here today is to give a brief introduction about multi-cloud Kubernetes, and then talk about something specifics that we have dealt with in our organizations also. Next slide, please. So you have multiple Kubernetes clusters coming up. The natural way to handle it is, you have a meta control plane wherein there's a master Kubernetes cluster to begin with. So what you see essentially is the same architecture that is used within the Kubernetes is now been extended for multi-cluster environments as well. So you have a single Kubernetes cluster operating as a control plane clusters for all these multiple clusters sprung across all these regions. There are 2 solutions specifically that we have used. One is Google Anthos. which allows you to onboard clusters across edge, across multiple regions, from Amazon. I mean, you have any cluster which is Kubernetes conformant, you can onboard it there. Then there's Rancher, of course, and there are several other solutions as well, but these are the most popular solutions that we have came across, and I'm pretty sure if someone has dealt with multi-cluster solutions, they would have heard of other names as well. Next slide, please. So what are the problems with these multi-cluster solutions that I talked about? First is, of course, vendor lock-in. We keep hearing this vendor lock-in all the time, right? What happens? If I end up making use of Google Anthos today is making use of this specific APIs, which means that tomorrow if I have to move the same cluster to some other vendor, it will be difficult for me to do that. So today we have that problem of vendor lock-in. But going forward, I'll come to that point where usually the community is working towards removing that vendor lock-in, and I'll talk about that in the future slides. And like I mentioned, every multi-cluster engine defines its own way of interacting with the worker clusters. So in the previous slide, you saw that the control plane cluster was talking to individual clusters in the multiple regions, and that communication today is proprietary. So that's a big problem. And the last difficult problem is that you have to have a community interest in such kind of projects where you're catering to most of the ecosystem which is out there in open source, and then you have this small piece which is not open source, which is proprietary, and you won't be able to garner community interest with this. Next slide, please. So what is happening in the real world? So within Kubernetes groups, special interest groups, there is a new group called as Cluster API group. What it is doing is it is formalizing, it is standardizing this cluster APIs. What essentially it will happen is, you see on the left-hand side here, it's turtles all the way down, which means that the same architectural decisions that we had to take within the cluster now are being taken across multiple clusters. Of course, there are different questions that sprung up when you try to orchestrate or try to handle multiple clusters across multiple regions. So that's the challenge that this group is tackling right now. So essentially what you have is a control plane and a cluster API, which is going to be a standard API, standardized API. And then this control plane will now be able to take care of all your clusters across the multiple regions. Essentially, in this ecosystem, you'll have three players. One is, of course, the open source community, which is building the cluster API in the first place. And everything is handled as a Kubernetes resource. I'm surprised that no one talked about Kubernetes resource in this session. Basically, Kubernetes resource is anyone who wants to create an object within to orchestrate within the Kubernetes, there is a resource associated with it. Kubernetes understands that resource, and the reconciliation, someone talked about getting from actual state to the desired state. The reconciliation happens based on these resources or the objects. So Kubernetes resource is a key component. That's what the cluster API also uses internally to synchronize the state across multiple clusters. So there are three aspects. Cluster API providers, the bootstrap providers, like I said, Google Anthos being one. Google Anthos is slowly moving towards cluster APIs. And then there are solutions provider, like the infrastructure provider, Google Cloud, Amazon EKS, all of these have to support this cluster APIs in the first place. Good news is, cluster APIs are already supported there. Note that we had cluster APIs been standardized in 2020 itself. So the adoption rate has been pretty fast. Next slide, please. So Aquinox, I'm going to talk about Aquinox. So we are working on zero trust runtime security for 5G, Edge, but we are mostly focused on Kubernetes native workloads as well as pure containerized workloads. So I'm going to move fast. One particular name you'll see in the context is KubeArmor. KubeArmor is an open source project part of CNCF Sandbox today, which has been driven by Aquinox, but since it is part of CNCF, it's under CNCF governance these days. I'm one of the maintainers of that project. My day job is a developer, even if I go by that fancy title of co-founder. Next slide, please. So within Aquinox, we have this multi-cluster sprawl as well. You have clusters coming up all the places. We have customer clusters to be managed. And then within the Aquinox SaaS itself, there are multiple clusters. There's development clusters, there's production clusters in US, there's production clusters in Asia. How do you manage all this? So that's what we are tackling about. Next slide, please. And then So what are the problems with multiple clusters? You have to have a single place where you are going to orchestrate all the policies, your data orchestration schemes as well. That is where Soda comes into picture. You have Soda Strato, a data management engine which can take care of making sure synchronization of data across multiple clusters. And then there is workload identity. Of course, all these individual topics are a topic of itself. You could have a talk on all of these topics separately. But in the interest of time, let's move fast. Next slide, please. So the problem we faced, I would like to spend 30 seconds on each of these. The identity federation, handling, we have the same set of users, same set of workloads across all these multiple clusters. How do you do identity? You need to tell that this service is allowed access to this database. Identity federation is what is of important concern here. That's a big challenge. Next slide, please. And then scaling telemetry events. You have data events coming in from all these clusters into a single centralized cluster, and how do you handle the scale of those telemetry events is another big challenge. I think this is where Soda Foundations, some of the work that is done within Soda Foundation will take a primary seat, in the sense that if you use Strato, you'll get a common management set of APIs which will ensure that you don't get into vendor lock-in. You don't end up making use of specific engines such as you have Datadog, you have Elk Stacks, you have Splunk. You don't want to get into vendor lock-in, so most Soda Foundation can help you here. Next slide, please. So to summarize, more or less, if any organization is going to do any development in the future, they will be developing it on Kubernetes. In fact, I would say one of the best decisions that we took as a co-founders was to make sure that we build our solution on top of Kubernetes. It allowed us to scale the development faster. It allowed us to make less mistakes. We don't have to worry about reliability, service discoverability, identity. Kubernetes provides identity as well, workload identity as well. So most of the infrastructure things were already taken care of by Kubernetes, including pod replication, auto scaling. At the end of the day, if your organization is building this, you'll end up spending a couple of years building these primitives in the first place. So we didn't have to worry about that just because of Kubernetes. Last slide, please. And that's where, one of the aspects that I wanted to highlight is that if you have data requirements, it is imperative that you don't want to get into a vendor lock-in. That's where Soda Strato project will come into picture, and you can make use of this vendor-agnostic APIs and leverage these APIs to make sure that your data is kept in a way which is in a common format, which does not depend upon any specific tooling. That's it.
Yep. And just probably one slide. So if you are interested to contribute, especially with Hacktoberfest coming up as well, you can locate the GitHub repository at sodafoundation/multi-cloud, and you can also join the Slack as well, where we have dedicated channels for multi-cloud and also a number of other projects that will be covered today as part of the Soda ecosystem. And if you want to get more details on how does the multi-cloud work internally, you can also find the user guide for the multi-cloud project as well. So thank you so much.
So this question is for Soda Foundation, mainly Delfin maybe. You are working with multiple storage vendors, right?
I'm sorry, sir. Did you say Delfin?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be having a session on that, and maybe they'll be because they are working on.
It can be a general question also.
Okay, sure.
When we are talking about vendor lock-in, so is there any resistance from vendors?
Well, vendors have to jump ships at some point in time because other players are going to abandon them very soon if they don't jump on the ship of using these vendor agnostic APIs. They will be abandoned anyways. So either they have to adopt it or be absolute.
Okay,
that's how I see it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Your point, what you asked is that vendors are, whether they are hesitant or not, right?
Yeah, see.
Because we are providing a vendor agnostic solution.
That's correct, but big enterprises, they are there for money, right?
Correct.
I mean,
exactly.
They are contributing to open source, but ultimately their main goal is to earn money.
Correct.
For their shareholders and all.
Yes. So
so there must be some resistance that if they opt for this common APIs or products Which, yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm just adding to Rahul's point. But the point what you mentioned is that some resistance, right? It is not some. It is really strong resistance.
Okay.
Because see, the thing is that you rightly pointed out saying that, see, I make a business to earn, right? Profit. If I don't have profit, we can't pay salary to the employees. If employees are not there, there is no business, right? So it's that way only. So storage is traditionally more towards that. If you see storage vendors, right, they are coming to open source recently. If you see traditionally, it is like a closed kind of thing. They are not to even promote, they don't even contribute, things like that. But today, that is not the case. That's what Rahul was telling. Eventually, you need to come out. One very good example is that when Kubernetes came up with the CSI interface, the storage interface, no vendors were supporting it initially. There were no vendors coming out and writing CSI driver for Kubernetes because they thought that it's no standard kind of thing, right? But today, you tell me one vendor who wants to sell doesn't have CSI. So that's the way it will. That's what Rahul was telling. They have to come out because it is going towards ecosystem. If you see last 2 years, NetApp, Pure Storage, HP, all the companies, they are coming up with solutions with open source and proprietary. So they have to come out because the open source ecosystem is that strong. We need to live in an ecosystem, right? Everybody has to win.
Let me provide you some context. If you have 30 seconds, we have a cloud security product, But we are also open sourcing. If you saw KubeArmor, that was an idea that we started, and we had to open source it right from day one because we knew that at some point in time someone else will also think about it. So we want to be the first to lead with that initiative so that we'll tell the world that we have been there before you. That also gives us the leverage. That aspect is also good.
Round of applause, guys. Come on, let's keep the applause going. Let's keep the applause going. Thank you for that very enlightening talk on Multicloud 101 and 201 and 301 because we went into details afterwards, right into Kubernetes Multicloud. But that was actually quite good because I believe a lot of us over here want to know more and where it leads to, not just learn about the basics. Yes, basics was covered, but it's a good thing that we got to know more. For any other questions, please feel free to reach out to them. They might be around here. Even after the sessions, we'll be at the booth as well. All right. Now, time for some prizes. Many of you have been waiting for this. If you have participated in the online quiz or the live quiz at the Soda booth, we'll be announcing the prizes here right away now. And let's see, what's the first one? Okay, so we conducted the live quiz at the Soda Foundation booth yesterday, and we gave away some goodies at the booth. But the top 3 prizes will be given away right now. Let me call on stage now. So for the third place, let's see, who's the third place winner? Monish Kumar. Monish Kumar. Is Monish here? Well, one of the rules was that you have to be here to collect your prize. Well, see, Monish, poor guy, your prize is now mine. To give away to somebody over here. Let's see, we might have something later on, okay? All right, Monish Kumar, if you come by the end of the sessions, we'll probably hand it over to you. If Monish's friends are here, message him, call him, tell him to take a cab right now and come here. I don't know if the cab fare is worth the money, but still it's all right. It'll be good to come and collect on stage. Moving on now to the second place at the live quiz is Krishna R. Krishna R, are you here? Ooh, 2 prizes for me. Krishna R. See, you should have confidence in yourself when you answer a quiz that I will win the prize. Unfortunately, no, they did not have it. Let's see, hopefully the first prize winner at least is here. Samir Pari, are you here? Wow. Brilliant. You know what you guys are missing out on? They have no idea. They're missing out on vouchers worth 3,000 rupees. Vouchers worth 2,000 rupees. We've got some amazing goodies courtesy of Open Looking as well. So I was not able to announce all that because unfortunately they were not there. But If you have answered the other quiz, and if you're a winner, if you know the other winners, please call them here very quickly. All right, very quickly now, I'm going to now introduce to you the next session, and for that, can I have the volunteers on stage, please? We just need the chairs to be arranged here very quickly. We have the panel discussion next. It's the From Container to Multi-Cloud panel discussion, and putting together the panel is Dr. Keshava Munegoda, Vice President SecDB Engineering at Goldman Sachs, Kamesh Sampath, Director of Developer Advocacy at Harness, Veena Jayan, Software Architect at Siemens Healthineers, and Sabri Girish, Senior Engineering Leader, Cloud and Compute BO Cisco. We also have the moderator, our very own Sanil Kumar D. We'll just get the panel. Sir, please take a seat. Mr. Kamesh Sampath, keep the applause going. Let's keep the applause going, everyone. Veena Jayan, Sabri Girish, and the moderator for this esteemed panel, Sanil Kumar D of the Soda Foundation. Over to you. So
in this discussion, what we are trying to learn from them, they are from different background. So they will let us know whether our direction is right, whether container to multi-cloud is, are we going in the right direction or not from their experience. And we expect some suggestions also from them for Soda Foundation to focus on. Okay. So just to begin with, I will let them introduce, you can introduce yourself and share some part of your work connected to, or whether connected to container and cloud.
Okay, so myself Keshava Munegoda, so I work for Goldman Sachs. So from a finance community, definitely, I mean, we are living in an era that cloud is must. So, and of course, since if you see at least some 7-8 years back, at least since we are from the finance, we always think that do we have any second thought, or do we really need the cloud deployability or usage of cloud itself? So now it's not the case. So now what we have is finance cloud itself. Okay, of course, multi-cloud is our strategy. I mean, it's not specific to one company, I would say, irrespective of the company. And of course, as the tracks are going on, the last session, as they already mentioned, I would say instead of vendor lock-in, the vendor neutrality would be the present and the future, and it will take us a long way to go. I think that's a good start. Let's start.
Yeah, thanks, Keshav. Yeah. How about you, Kamesh?
Yeah, just to add on to him, like I work for a company called as Harness. So we do a modern software delivery platform. It's completely based on cloud, and obviously containers, Kubernetes. So that has been part of my work for the last few years, including my open source contribution to them as well. So which means that cloud, Kubernetes, and containers are the part of everyday programming or development that everybody has to do. That has been a mandate right now. And obviously, multi-cloud has become the way, or even I should say hybrid cloud in a matter, has become the way of people to deploy the applications. So it is everywhere, Sanil.
Okay. So you went one step ahead. Hybrid cloud. Now we need to define also hybrid cloud. I'll come to that. Before that, Veena, what about your views?
Hi everyone, I am Veena. I am currently working with the Siemens Healthineers. In the past, I worked with Philips Innovation also. Yeah, in the last few years, around 4 or 5 years, I have been into developing applications which is used by healthcare organizations and research universities, where the trend is like we develop application, they also demand it to be containerized and deployed in cloud environment. Previously, like when we developed some solutions, we used to deploy it in on-premise setup, and with that setup, when we were developing new projects, then we found that there is a new trend. Clients itself demanding already their solutions or part of the work which we have to integrate, like their algorithms which are already there in the cloud environment and they are containerized, and they want our applications to integrate that and provide the results. So naturally the trend is towards deploying it in cloud. And also I have seen in projects, real-time projects, the data is stored in BigQuery in Google Cloud platforms, and there are a lot of data analytics tools and applications provided by open source communities itself, which are used by healthcare organizations. Yeah, so the trend is towards
Thanks,
multi-cloud
Vina.
and
Actually, you answered my second question, third question already. So I need to find some other questions. I'm not prepared. Okay, fine. Especially healthcare, this kind of changes are not very easy. We'll come to that later. How about you, Shabri?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shabri. I work at Cisco. So we started moving to cloud a couple of years back. So primarily we were, we were selling Cisco servers, and there was a management system, so which was a server management system and a data center management system that we were providing, and it was embedded for it was an embedded solution for almost 8 to 10 years, and we slowly started moving towards cloud. What we are seeing is that we need a hybrid cloud. We need a solution which is present on the cloud, and if it is present on the cloud, many customers also want it in an appliance as well. While we have provided both, like an appliance as well as a cloud managed system, there are new asks that are coming from customers wherein they need some data which is available on the appliance not to be available on the cloud for security reasons, and that is what we are working on next.
You again, one more step, data security. Okay. So we have seen that the container deployment is becoming exponentially growing. You also mentioned right now about cloud and container. So when you say applications are more and more getting deployed in containers, our interest at Soda Foundation will be more of data management or storage. So what are your thought process that when you have more and more applications are getting deployed in containers, what do you think about data management aspect of it?
Yeah, I think maybe except Kamesh, we three represents some of the organizations where at this today there's no second thought. You have to be.
Okay.
That's that's a scenario today. And coming to definitely the soda kind of things will definitely help not only on the vendor neutrality, making it common and develop once and irrespective of the cloud provider. That's that's a one thing other than the vendors we actually require. The most of the consumer, most of them who want to develop something on that. And that's a main thing. And of course, the soda kind of community, any as such, anything which related in the who have a space on the open source plus cloud, definitely gives a very good kickstart in that sense.
So you mean the data management is equally important?
100%.
Okay.
That's highly important.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah.
So Kamesh, being you have been deploying a lot of services into, for multiple users across the globe, right? So what do you think about?
See, definitely one of the things when after I joined a company like Harness where we do continuous deployment, continuous delivery kind of thing, right? I was starting to think about like earlier, like we have a multiple deployment patterns where we deploy the applications like blue, green, canary and all these stuff, right? I started to think like what happens to the data? So how do we roll out this data, right? Is there anything that we can do a similar pattern for data? How do we take backups of data? How do we move data? So there is a lot of questions that comes into picture when you technically take how do I deploy the application? That once application is deployed, how would I release a new version where we talk about all these GitOps and all these kind of technology, right? And when I roll out new versions, how is my data is taken care? So how do I move that? That question is still unanswered, to be honest. And that's something like which I look for, like your foundation to see like how we can solve that issue, right? That's one of the things which we're taking about.
Okay, I think we need to discuss a lot about it offline because I'm very happy to hear that data backup, data mobility, because some of those keywords are there with Soda direction. So thanks for that. And Veena, how do you think about say when you have more and more container deployment? I think you also mentioned that some of your applications are moving to container. So how do you think about the data management aspect of it?
Yeah. So
especially the health data is very
sensitive.
Yeah,
yes.
sensitive.
Yes. In many applications, we don't really
Sorry?
speak. In many scenarios, really speaking, in healthcare, data is sensitive. It's all patient data. So many organizations, they don't prefer to store the data, sensitive data in cloud. So the trend was like to have it in somewhere else on premise or
Somewhere
that
else means
was the
some secret place.
classical, yeah, yeah, that was the classical way. And now the trend is at least the small scale applications which are mainly focusing on data analytics or clinical trials. For them,
So that is without patient data or with patient data?
that is with patient data. There, the trend is that they are open to store it in cloud. And also, if you see like, if you have heard of an open source forum called ODC, OHDASC, it is a global network where, I mean, across the globe, many organizations are involved. I mean, it is an open source platform. I mean, they provide tools and operational health data or databases also. All these databases are stored in cloud actually.
Cloud. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So the trend
primarily
is
on
changing.
research and test aspects, probably
Yeah,
this data
yeah,
can go
yeah.
to cloud to some
Yes.
extent. Okay.
But EMR data, I have not seen. We have to yet to see that. Yeah.
Okay. Shabri already talked about data security.
Yeah, for us, I mean, because we maintain the life cycle of a server, one of the things that we need is user configuration. So some of the customers are very sensitive about storing user information on the cloud. So that policy, like for example, we define a server based on set of policies. So some set of policies, they are good with it being defined in the cloud, but other policies, they want it locally. So they want an hybrid approach there. And some customers, like though they are fine with, no policy configurations are completely within my data center. It never goes to the cloud, but you can fetch the data and provide telemetry for me, like replacement of, for example, in server cases, the simplest one is whether drives are ready for to be replaced, like the usage, how much usage, or what life cycle of the drive is left. Based on that, we should recommend them. So those information, we fetch it in the cloud. I mean, we fetch that particular information, and there is a service, microservice, which runs, or a solution that runs in the cloud, which figures out, yes, these are the things that it needs to be upgraded or replaced. They are fine with it, but yeah, not all other data. So we have to like differentiate each element.
You should have reserved the last sentence for the next question. I'm happy for that. Two specific points I'm capturing from Shabri is that one is the telemetry aspect of it. Happy to hear the telemetry, especially cloud telemetry, which we are also thinking at Delfin project. The other one is that you said it is kind of complex. I mean, the way you explained itself, it looks complex. That some customer wants some data to be one place or some data to be other place, something like that. That we like, because those are the complex problems we want to solve with Como and Strato. So that's a good point. So what we have seen is that, say, container is important, container data management is important, and now you already mentioned, maybe I'll continue with you, that the containerized application deployment in multi-cloud, is that, what is your thought process about container-based application deployment in cloud or multi-cloud with respect to your work or what you see in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it containers. Yeah, I mean, our solution contains multiple services. So each service basically is a container, which has its own database and stuff like that. So that provides us easier way to. I mean, we let's say we kind of manage 10,000 servers, but then when we push, right, we want to upgrade by providing new features or whatever. When we are pushing, we are really not impacting the customer, because they are different containers and they are getting upgraded not simultaneously. So that helps us a lot.
Okay. So you mean, I think you earlier also mentioned that you deploy these microservices into cloud.
Into cloud, yes.
Is it one cloud or multiple?
It's for us, it is primarily AWS cloud, but we also have, I mean, as we deploy it, the appliances are also registered to the cloud. So we have to upgrade the appliances as well. So that happens one after, I mean, like in sequence.
So just to clarify, these microservices are also based on the container deployment.
Yeah,
So
yes.
you use Kubernetes?
Yes, we use Kubernetes.
So in cloud.
In cloud, yes.
So basically you use AWS Kubernetes services.
Yes.
Okay, AKS you use and then deploy.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that also indicates that this container application deployments are moving to cloud or multi-cloud. I mean, we are shaping it up. I mean, that's what I want to. Okay, how would you, Veena? Cloud maybe is no for you, or I mean, this kind of. You mentioned about Kubernetes. You are
Yes.
moving to Kubernetes.
Yeah, we normally deploy it in Azure cloud, Azure, and yes, Kubernetes is.
They should be happy. They are.
Yes, yes. Maybe because we were mostly using Microsoft technologies and moving to this one. Yeah, yeah. It is on
I need to
Azure
talk to you.
and Kubernetes.
I need to talk to you offline.
Yeah.
Okay, Kamish.
We don't basically do anything with harness for this, but earlier customers, when I was working in previous organization, when we did multi-cloud deployments, technically even hybrid clouds. See, one of the problems that usually comes with the data is that the data mobility and data interoperability between multi-clouds, right? Because there is no unified interface that allows you to talk to all these platforms in a standard way.
So you indicate that lifecycle management also maybe lifecycle of the data.
Yeah, it could be definitely. So we take backup archiving and all these things. It also comes into picture.
Because
And
it is
then-
non-standard across different
Yeah,
clouds.
so we don't have a unified dashboard kind of thing where you can go do stuff. There were some open source projects I remember to have explored in Apache thing, like which helps you to do talk to multi-cloud, but still they are not matured enough, like for an enterprise level stuff when you're doing, especially when I was working with OpenShift. So we had this real problem, right? How do we communicate? And in fact, I was talking earlier, like we even have in cases where customer were having hybrid cloud. Say, okay, I want to communicate from my thing, like using a VPN or something to talk to this, and then I cannot push data. The data somehow I need to read the data, but I not push because I don't want to trust the cloud networks, right? For some reasons. So for confidentiality sake. So that is one of the biggest problems I see, even in spite of us deploying to multi-cloud. We don't have a way by which we can have the data move across the cloud. Even, for example, from if you have to go to Europe, so we have the GDPR there. So probably we need to take care of those compliances as well, which adds more complexity for data.
You guys are making me so delighted. Just one question for all of us that you mentioned multiple times about hybrid cloud. Can you just elaborate what exactly is hybrid cloud in your view?
So usually, for example, like when you take a deployment for that matter, so you usually say, okay, I have AWS, I have GCP. Sometimes people say, okay, I have my own cloud, private data center, and I have few of the applications which I cannot move out. Probably that could be a legacy application which cannot be moved into cloud or containerized. I still want these applications to communicate with the application that's deployed in cloud. So that kind of scenario is what I term as hybrid cloud. So where I have my own cloud private data center and also I have the public clouds as well. And in fact, I was reading an article where some of the organizations in Australia are coming back to hybrid cloud way. They are pulling out from cloud and they want to do it more on data center, like their own data center. So they are not kind of investing more on that side of things.
Yes. In fact, that boundary is becoming narrow and narrow. It's private
Right,
cloud, public
exactly.
cloud. And also add to complexity, edge cloud is also there. So once you have the hybrid of edge
Exactly,
on-premises-
exactly. That's also come into picture, yes,
Yeah.
right.
Keshav, you want to add something to
Yeah, maybe this.
containerized application to cloud?
Yeah, this derives on another kind of any of the things. Maybe it's just an empirical problem that, let's say you have a Google PubSub system, data in or data out, and then that's interconnect with S3 system. Is there any common set of APIs that we can expect from Soda?
Okay.
Irrespective of data format.
Okay.
That could be.
So,
So
so basically S3 to some extent it can.
S3 is already kind of a standard. Further above that on the.
In Strato, our vision is that S3 is one of the access protocol.
Yeah,
So we can
okay.
actually support any other protocol to support multiple clouds. I mean, that's what we are trying to.
In that sense, at least in my experience, I've seen on the streaming storage, the PubSub system, the Kafka, these kind of things, they get standardized. I think right now, in that sense, most of the Kafka APIs are becoming standard. This could be another opportunity, definitely.
That's a good point. I think multi-cloud guys are listening to this.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So now we
we just try to understand that container is important, container application deployment is important, and containerized application in cloud or multi-cloud is also important. Now, yes, it is important, it's an opportunity, but when opportunity comes, something else also comes along with that. Challenges, right? Opportunity comes with challenges. So we just discuss about those kind of challenges. Maybe we'll start with Keshav.
I think
Maybe what are the key challenges?
Yeah, the key challenges would be definitely, I would say, few of them, at least four. The one is the security.
You can't
First
reduce,
challenge.
right? You can't reduce.
Yes. And the other one is the availability. Your systems has to be upfront always. That's irrespective of whether it is cloud deployable, whether you have your own data center, whatever it is. Definitely the performance. I had all my deployments on the bare metal, and you can't expect that to be compromised just because you are running on some VMs. It should be optimal performance. The cost model, it could be my opinion, because the cost model has been changed over a period of time. Earlier, it used to be in one-time cost, and then the recurring costs were different factors. Now, the recurring cost is a subscription model, right? So, but these were the challenges, like something that we should, irrespective of whether it is, whatever the cloud model, these are something that it has to be solved first.
So you stated that security, availability, performance, and also the costing.
Costing, yeah,
That
I
is
would say the least priority
yeah,
one,
bit of a
because different people,
complex
yes.
proposition, yeah.
Yes,
And that's most important to us.
Obviously. Yeah, that's what the
Kamesh, you want to start with the cost?
Yeah.
No, I probably skip this cost, but I have few other things to talk there. So the same thing, like about data mobility, of course, that's going to be a crucial challenge. So how do I move across data, across the clouds, plus your private data center in case if you have to move that. And the other things is, one of the primary reasons we rely on data is for analytics. So in that case, like I was wondering, how do I take multi-cloud data to analytics, right? So that is something which is not so easy. Like there might be ways which people are doing today, but in case if you have to take all this data together, put together something that runs real time, like a big query that can run real time across multiple different clouds, that's not, in my opinion, that's not possible. Maybe that might be doable, but that's going to be a super challenge as well. And also proximity of data. So even if the multi-cloud data center, like if you are not having it near shore or within your region or country or wherever you want to have, so that's going to cause a problem. And the other big challenge is like us, like India and in other countries, they are now saying, okay, you have to keep my data in my place, right? So if that is a case, how are we going to deal with multi-cloud? In case if that particular cloud doesn't have a data center in India, then what's our solution for that, right? And that's one. And obviously, as I talked earlier, like no unified interface, right, to talk to all these things. So one unified interface will solve some of these challenges, but still some will be open, right? And security, as Keshav said earlier, right, it's always there. So and compliance, that's another one. So these are all standard challenges that we get with data anywhere, right? Even irrespective of whether it's cloud or not, but it's still there.
So Kamesh was trying to say that one is that data mobility, because one cloud to another or region to region, I think it is becoming important. And then you set the nearby. It should be nearby and single glass of pane where you can do the data processing part. Veena and Shabiri, you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, with respect to data, yeah, as I mentioned in many scenarios, we were storing the data outside cluster because of the sensitivity and large volume of data. And yeah, it was not a long-term storage, short-term storage still. I mean, for 3-4 months, data will be there for a patient. And then the challenge was that we were storing data in relational databases like SQL Server, and when we try to containerize those SQL, we were facing technical challenges. We were not able to do at that point of time, and yeah, that was one challenge with respect to storage that I have faced.
So especially when you when you do a transition from enterprise to this Kubernetes kind of thing, are you facing this same problem that data will be again
it has to be in the enterprise side. It cannot come to Kubernetes.
Yes, if it is large volume of data, if it is like some transactional data which just we read it, process it, and delete it, then it is fine actually. Within the container, we can store it in non-SQL databases also. It is
I think
not
that's
a
a
problem.
good problem to solve probably.
Yeah.
Kahu should look into. Shabri, you want to add anything to this?
I mean, I don't have anything else because whatever problem I am facing is what Kamesh explained. The data security, wherein there are some like rules because of which you cannot move it across different locations. But your cloud is in different locations, and the account admin, right, might be somebody who is sitting in US, but his data, I mean, he might be managing the servers in both US as well as Europe. But then you need to run telemetry on the servers, right? Then how will he be able to do it? Then we need those telemetry solutions in both the places. So I mean, those are the basic. I mean, exactly those are the same issues that Kamesh explained that we are also facing.
So do you face some kind of compliance issues as well in the sense
Yeah, we
data
have.
cannot go out?
Yeah, data cannot go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And then one more thing which I forgot to add is like the data archiving side of things, right? So
Yes.
because if you have you cannot have a common data policy for the organization, it could apply it across multiple clouds because each cloud will have its own data archiving policy. So which makes it difficult for the organizations to have one standard policy which could be applied across multiple clouds. So that is again a very big challenge, in fact.
yeah, in fact, Strato has some kind of a policies you can apply for long-term archival as well. Yeah, so I think this is also an input that yeah, we need to go in the same direction. Yeah, that's good. Now, see, we are in India, and OSI is happening in India. Now we see opportunity, we have challenges. Now, according to you, what do you suggest to our developers like us, that what to watch out? These are an opportunity, there are challenges, and how do we take this opportunity for our developer ecosystem in India?
Yeah, definitely. So the very first one, I think in the last session, Rahul, right, he was mentioning that when we started this, we decided that we're going to open source it. I think that should be the mindset. That should be the developer mindset. Make sure that if you have your idea to develop some code, make sure that you open source it. Otherwise, if you're joining anything like Soda Foundation thing, that would be the one thing. Is always like you already have a ready vehicle and you just start with that. Okay. That's always the one thing. This is one kind of a visibility you already get when by doing it. This is one thing. And the second aspect is, especially with the cloud and other stuffs, moment you make any contribution and when you make anything, it's always ensuring that it's a production quality. That of course, if you have any algorithmic issues, definitely it won't be. But I'm saying, in general, any of the open source contribution goes successful. It's almost like nowadays that's readily usable stuff, which means it's a production ready stuff.
Bit harder.
Yeah. No, of course, we know that compared to any of the custom development or a close team development, there'll be somebody who shell out money for the fast development. Other thing. Open source takes its own phase, but it's always like personally, I always like kind of even the Linux, because I worked for some time for the Linux kernel development. So I always like being a code open and learning through the code rather than reading document, to learn from the code. So this is what I always, and Soda is a great platform in that sense.
So nice of you.
Thank you. Definitely. Yeah. Yes.
In the interest of time,
How do I came to know to submit SBK to Soda Foundation? It's all because of
so that is a trick.
That's a great platform.
That is a trick.
Yes.
Okay, in the interest of time, maybe you can just
Yeah,
go
yeah.
faster and
See,
say.
again, something which maybe it's a general open source thing which any developers has to keep in mind is that contributing just through code is not a contribution, right? You have a lot
Very
of other
important.
things. As Keshav was saying, quality, right? So when you say quality, you can also contribute as tests, documentations, quick starts, examples. So that also gives some new innovative ideas back to the thing, right? So that's That's something which needs to be kept in mind. Right? The developers now think, okay, I got a project, it's not some programming language I don't understand, so I cannot contribute. It's not like that. You can just go do something like test the product or do something, try it out, and just post questions, right? That could also be some sparking ideas. So which is also another way of contributing to open source. And I think I was listening to one of the questions earlier, like how does these organizations get benefit out of these things, right? I think again I want to drive it back to the open source thing, right? See, nowadays if you have each of the open source projects has their own working groups, right? And when the organizations start to define, right, they are part of the working group with more seats, then they define what should be the interface, which gives them more control over that particular stuff, right? Though it is getting rotated, but that's one of the ways how open source works, right? It makes easy for the organizations to say, okay, I have more say right now. So which is again a winning point for them to go to their customers and say, this is a product we're contributing, use it, right? Which brings some money back. At the same time, they're also contributing to the open source. So that's how I think these things.
Especially that examples and starter guide, these are all very low hanging fruit for any new developers. They can really become a contributor quickly.
Right.
Yeah. Veena and Shabri, you want to add anything? What developers should do to grab this opportunity?
I wanted to mention the same points that you mentioned now. It's documentation, sample programs, maybe some automated test projects.
Automated stuff.
Yeah.
Shabri will say study well.
So yeah, I mean, documentation is one thing that would really help in, you know, the open source to be used by everyone. But along with that, I mean, as you are part of the open source system, it's good to, you know, see how what commits are accepted. Like, you know, it's like a self review, so that when you put in a code, right, for it to be accepted by the moderator, if you have already seen how reviews happen, you understand the review, because that would help. That may, I mean, that code be production ready. So that is something that I would suggest. I mean, everybody.
So the good news is that container and multi-cloud, the theme is right. Opportunities are there, challenges are there, and we have an opportunity to grab. And that's what we listen to them. And they have also given some very good use cases and ideas for Soda as well as all of us. So if any questions from audience, maybe we can rag them now. It's an opportunity to rag them. Anyone?
Check.
So my question is
Check.
first for Veena. You've been in the healthcare industry, and based on the customer interactions that we had, you know, and you clearly seems to be way ahead of the curve in the sense that you have adopted containerization, Kubernetes, and you're already on your way towards multi-cloud. But what we are seeing when during our customer interaction is that, you know, healthcare industry is lagging behind in terms of there's a friction here to adopt new technology for good reasons, of course, for good reasons, you know. Do you really see that kind of adoption in the healthcare industries for Kubernetes and multi-cloud scenarios? And what was your primary impetus for moving to such kind of technologies? What was your primary reason?
Yes, as you rightly mentioned, yes, the legacy projects and the modality applications, like when you are in healthcare, like Siemens, Philips, all those organizations provide CT applications or ultrasound or MRI, or scanner related applications and console application. Those kind of legacy products, yes, I have not seen yet. Moving towards this containerization, maybe some parts of that, there are some drives. Also, I have worked with hospital information systems, which is now known as CMR, electronic medical records. Also, not the core projects, but deployment and other things. I mean, they are also moving towards cloud. It's happening. My experience is with the solutions which are used by research organizations, research universities, and healthcare, organization, hospitals, where they are using these applications for clinical trial. And some cases they have their algorithms developed for example, COVID-related algorithms which detects COVID from a CT image or from an X-ray image, those kind of things. So what their preference is, those are containerized. We give it as a Docker images. Can you integrate, get the result, display in the dashboard, so that in the hospitals, when they have discussions with the physicians, what should be the next steps for the patient? What should be the next treatment plans? Even in the multi-tumor board discussions, what they want is they want to run AI algorithms, and the software should be able to integrate with the AI algorithms what hospitals or research organization provide, and then see the results. And they meet in the room and they want to just take this applications deployed in VMs, or maybe it is towards hybrid, but or in a cloud. They want to see these results quickly coming in, because their discussions for each patient, maybe 40 seconds they will dedicate. So they just want to quickly see the summary of the state of the patient and suggest the next option. So there are transitions happening, but there are a lot of concerns regarding data security. And when we deploy applications in their environment, infrastructure is provided by them. So we have to go through a lot of security or
You keep it, I'll tell one on one.
and we have to provide a lot of documentations and evidences.
Makes sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Vinay. Thanks. In the interest of time,
Yes,
we are unable to take questions.
No, I'm really sorry. We are very over time at the moment, but I'm pretty sure the panel is going to be here. You can discuss with them one-on-one. We are very over time. I'm really sorry about that. Let me now quickly thank Dr. Keshav Munegoda, Kamesh Sampath, Veena Jayan, Sabri Girish, and Sanil Kumar. A big round of applause for Dr. Keshav Munegoda. A round of applause for Mr. Kamesh Sampath. This is for a round of applause for Veena Jayan. This is for Mr. Sabri Girish and Mr. Sanil Kumar D, our very own moderator. Thank you very much to the esteemed panel. Thank you for your thoughts. We are extremely sorry about not taking more questions on this panel, but in the interest of time, since it's already late evening on a weekend, on a long weekend, we would want to move forward. Very quickly now, the next talk in this SODA forum will be on data protection and the Kahu. The Kahu is not the next movie coming up in data protection. It's the project by SODA Foundation in data protection and container data management. And speaking about the Kahu are Sushanta Kumar, lead architect at Huawei and a project maintainer at SODA Foundation, and Amit Kumar Roshan, senior system architect at Huawei and also a project maintainer at SODA Foundation. Over to you, Sushant and Amit. To answer, can anyone tell me what does SODA stand for? SODA. You've attended SODA Forum. I'm wearing a t-shirt called SODA Foundation. If you've attended Sanil's talk in the morning, you should know this. What does SODA stand for? We have somebody here in the front, but he's also a speaker. Okay, somebody is here. Brilliant answer. May I know your name, sir? Umakant, sir, gets the right answer. Can we get a bottle for that? SODA Open Data Autonomy. You can Google if you want. I didn't say they can't Google. So probably he did. If he did, well done, sir. Because I did not say it's a closed book exam. It's an open book exam. You can look for it. If you find the answer, it's a very good thing. Means we have done the right thing. That content is available online somewhere to be found. If Amit and Sushant are ready, data protection and the Kahu on your stage now.
Yeah, hello guys. So we have seen throughout the forum about the containers, their origin and their deployment, the scale at which they are deployed, and also some aspects of data management. So in this going forward in this direction, see, we want to introduce you a project related to container data protection. So we will be talking some part related to what exactly is data protection here and how it is applicable to container data protection. And we at SODA Foundation, how we are tackling this problem and what we have for you to offer. So Myself Sushant, and with me is Amit. So Amit will take the first part of it to explain the background about data protection, and so then bring it to our own project at Kahu. So over to Amit now.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. So, hi everyone. So, we are here to set the stage why data protection, especially container data protection, and why we got motivated. Why we got motivated to work on the project called Kahu, which is specifically for container data protection. And just so before moving to the container data protection, let's talk about data protection. Okay, so if we talk about data protection traditionally, then it is all about a process of safeguarding that data for maybe loss or maybe corruption. So and again bring back that data back so that the application can work seamlessly. So that's the traditional aspect of data protection. But there are some additional verticals added, which is data security and the data privacy, which involves some different strategy called encryption. Like as you can see on the slide, like there are different strategy involved for the data security, like encryption, authentication, access control, and likewise we have for data privacy we have a policy based system, data governance, global validation, and the legislation. But these data protection strategies are out there for good time. Like in the industry it is there for such a long time, but that data protection, when this all the strategy and policies are being applied for a particular application to get the data protected for specific applications, that's where we come and as now most of the application mostly is getting deployed in the container. So that's where the data protection of container comes into the picture. Now, let's talk about the motivation behind working on the Kahu project, why this Kahu project is there. So, if you see over the time, the application architecture has changed. Initially, I mean, traditionally we were working on monolithic application, then MVC came, then comes microservices, and then we have cloud native application. If you see the architecture of each and every applications are different, which is getting deployed. So definitely that leads us to the change in the strategy of how the data is going to get protected for all those applications out there. So that is one of the key challenge which we have to, and that gives us a motivation also. So how to achieve a data protection for such a varied deployment, and then comes, so all those applications actually let's say the cloud native application are broadly categorized in the stateful application and the stateless applications. When we talk about the stateless application, let's talk about the stateless application first. So there is no state maintained basically, but still, so do we need to still back up or do the data protection for a stateless application? Yes, we do. The reason is not only application states are being backed up, there are near and around some resources which need to be get back up, like the configuration, the secure informations, those information which is required for to normally work a stateless application, that need also a protection, so that it, whenever there is problem in data center or there is problem in cluster, can be brought back with the restoration and can work seamlessly. And then let's talk about the stateful application. So as the states are involved in the stateful applications, so definitely also not only states, the stateless application mostly dump the information into volume. So that there comes the data protection for the volumes which involve with the stateful application. And then the third challenge and the motivation for us is the role and the scope. So the application which is deployed on cloud, so there are some set of policy associated with different applications. There are different authentication, authorization attributes added to the application. Also, there are different scope for that particular application. Maybe for an instance, if you have environment, right? It might be a dev environment. It might be a production environment. So there are running running in the same cluster. So how do you devise a policy so that you as a data protection system will be able to take the backup of a specific application. So those are the motivation behind for us to develop a new solution, and we are basically talking about that. Now, because we are talking more about data protection for the container, one of the key platform which we have initially decided is Kubernetes, because we see there are a lot of adoption of the Kubernetes in the industry. So we try to develop a solution first on the Kubernetes platform, and the key things which we wanted to explore for the Kubernetes as well is like what all supports are available for data protection in the Kubernetes itself in the first place, and also what is the scope of the data protection on the Kubernetes. And alongside that, we also wanted to know what is the current progress of data protection on Kubernetes workspace. Basically in CNCF, what all steps has been taken and what all approach has currently working on for the data protection. So, for our analysis, these are the outputs, like the available support for the data protection in Kubernetes is are actually application resources. So Kubernetes support all the applications as a resource. And because those are the metadata associated with a particular application, so it will be easy for anyone to develop a data protection for that particular application, especially when we talk about metadata. So all the metadata informations are available as a part of resource in Kubernetes. So there are different resources for defining different applications, like stateful applications are there, for daemon set applications are there. So additionally, there are custom applications also available and not only that, application developer can define their own custom resources, and that also are represented as a resource. So which is an additional advantage for us, because we wanted to also back up the metadata of the application. And again, for the stateful applications, we do also have to take the backup of the volumes. Now the basic building blocks are available in Kubernetes, which is volume snapshot. So these are the available support for data protection initially in Kubernetes. Okay, for maybe for volume, when we talk about the data protection, mostly we give more focus on volume and what all the basic primitives available in Kubernetes. So you can see Kubernetes supports volume snapshotting, and the flow is like you define a resource for taking a snapshot for a particular volume. The snapshot controller takes that, accept that request, and work towards it to get the request sent to the CSI driver, and then CSI driver connects with the backend storage and takes the snapshot and send the information back. Excuse me. But when we talk about volume snapshotting, which is primarily bound with a primary storage, but when we talk about volume backup, right? So we want application volume to be get backup such a way that even though the primary storage get corrupted, we should be able to restore back the volumes so that the application can work seamlessly. That is one of the key challenge for us. Now, That brings me to the key challenges which we have to solve in the data protection, and we are planning to solve in the Kahu solution, which are basically for a application, right? In Kubernetes, there are different granularity. One is that it can be deployed under the namespace. The resources basically in the Kubernetes has different granularity. One can be the resources can be available on namespace, under the namespace or the cluster scope, and there are there are actually we talked about and we explored some of the solution, and we find out that there are also a need of the complete cluster backup also. So that is also one of the key challenge which we wanted to address. Now second thing is obvious, is like all the resource metadata and the volumes need to be get backed up. And also the second the third point which we wanted to especially address is like when you're backing up a solution, right, we do not want to just back up a application complete solution and bring it back. We wanted to give a solution so that the application, a specific area of application can also be like a module can be also restored back. So that's where we have introduced a filtering mechanism, so that during the restoration and during the backup also you the kind of resources you want to backup or restore can be achieved. Okay, then comes the backup repository management, which is like we wanted to devise a framework so that any kind of storage can be added as a backup repository system, maybe NFS, S3, or maybe some of the on-prem solution or custom solution, whatever it is. It should be pluggable so that it can be seamlessly get integrated with the framework. Then when we talk about the backup, it is basically a process of taking the backup at a regular interval of time. So that then comes the scheduling part. So also there is something called restoration target challenge, where we wanted to also achieve a solution which can be, I mean, the restoration can be achieved within the cluster and across the cluster as well. Maybe across the cloud, we have not thought of that way, but yeah, I mean, if it is under the purview of Kubernetes, definitely it can be done across the cloud as well. Now, giving so much of analysis, we identified the key blocks which we need to develop so that data protection can be achieved in on the Kubernetes. Basically, those building blocks are volume backup, backup repositories. We wanted to also add hooks so that during the volume backup or maybe any application backup, if customer want to or user want to run some specific custom commands, that can also be get handled. We are also so also we wanted to support backup, volume backup for full backup, in differential and incremental backup also. So for that we identified something called what all blocks has been changed during the course of action of the application. Then we wanted to also so we wanted to also take the advantage of blocks, so that a complete set of volume can be grouped and can be a group consistent snapshot can be achieved with that. And the last and not the least is application snapshot and the backups, which is very specific to a particular application, so that a custom application can be defined into the system. And basically for this we wanted to achieve is not only the primitive resources type of the Kubernetes, we wanted to also achieve the backup for CRDs, which is defined out there into the system. Like user want to define their custom resources, yes, we also wanted to achieve the custom resources backup and solution. Now I would invite Sushant to explain further on Kahu project.
Yeah, actually, most of the parts are covered. So let me quickly go through what we have at Kahu. So when we started analyzing this, we came to know like there are quite a lot of scenarios to be handled under data protection. So we created a sub repository under Soda Foundation called Soda CDM, so that we can accommodate all the projects here, either one or multiple projects. So first, so this hosts different projects related to container data management. So current one is only for the data backup and restore. So going next, we want to add the use cases related to restoration, recovery, and also the observability. Maybe the some more projects may be added, or the current projects will be announced to handle the same. So Kahu, we already saw the primary goal of Kahu is to focus on backup and restore solutions for containerized applications. So this is the key Kahu's architecture. So in the middle, we see the core platform or the framework which Kahu offers, containing API layer through which our services can be triggered. And we have a core services mainly to take backup and restore. So when I say core services, we have certain controllers written at this layer, which will help us to get this done. And also we have O&M services for the user to have a better control on our services. And key thing is we have a storage provider framework, which helps us to seamlessly adapt different storage providers belonging to different storage vendors. So these are the key goals classified under 3 categories: backup and restore features. This is more or less what Amit mentioned as the key features of backup and restore. Different flavors of backup with different filters, different locations, and different kind of volumes comes under this. And storage provider framework mainly support pluggable integration to our framework, and also multiple providers can coexist together. And O&M aspects, like we can create some policies so that you can have scheduled based backups in addition to your manual backups, and also backup service plane, thinking like some provider independent backup also will be the case going forward. So key design decisions taken is like we are like more inspired by the CSI way of integrating different storage vendors. So we also followed the like pluggable interfaces, then control and data plane entities are kept independent. That means the backup restore controllers run irrespective of the other providers available in the system, and other providers can come and go without affecting the backup and restore functionality. And a common module for CSS snapshot, because it is most widely used. And backups are treated as a jobs instead of long running processes, because we think backup is more of a job than a continuous running process. Do it, and once it is done, we can just get out of it till the next request for backup is posted. Restic support, inbuilt restic support, so that we can have some kind of a backup kept at the repository. And also O&M support, this layer we added so that based on the user's need, even users pieces can be added there on top of Kahu. So where are we currently? So we have, this is relatively a new project, just a few months old with respect to implementation, although we have started analysis of this several months ago. So we have already integrated basic features for backup and restore, which is self-sufficient to demonstrate any use case of backup and restore. And also the storage provider framework is ready. So with the NFS being the metadata provider, and LVM, we are in the process of integrating LVM and Linstore as the volume backup providers, so that anybody can try like without any storage dependency. So next plan is like we want to cater into the cross cluster and other challenges related to backup and restore when we move out of the cluster. And provider support, existence of multiple providers and the integration of certain providers which we already analyzed, and mainly the scheduled based backup which is users need. Yeah, that's all we have with respect to. So as I mentioned, it's a relatively new project, so we welcome all kind of contributions here with respect to design input or implementation or documentation or test support. So looking forward to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sushant and Amit. Are there any questions on the data protection and the Kahu? We have anybody is interested. If you're interested in contributing, as Sushant has mentioned just now, it's a very new project. We are in the process of creating a lot of new things right now. So it's the right time to get in, even if you want to start learning to contribute. So if you're new to open source and you have the technical skills, maybe to contribute to a Kubernetes-based application, this is the right time to go ahead into it. You can start learning from one issue. The maintainers and other developers are there to help you out. Please do check out the links on your screen. With that, I'd like to very quickly thank Amit and Sushant. Can we have you in the center and front of stage, please? Round of applause for Sushant Kumar, everybody. And round of applause for Amit Roshan, everybody. Give the round of applause, Sushant. Can we switch over to the presentation? Well, it's time for some prizes. We did conduct another live quiz at the booth today, and I'm going to give away the prizes for the live quiz at the Soda Foundation booth conducted today. And the third prize, okay. I think I changed the date, but I forgot to change the quiz number. It's 2, not 1. Third place is won by Murli V. Murli V, are you here? Murli V, foregoing an Amazon voucher as well as some amazing goodies, is Murli V. If you do end up coming here by the end of this forum, you do get to keep the prize. Otherwise, you have forfeited it. Let's see who's the second place winner. Raghavendra. Raghavendra DR, are you here? No? Well, too bad. I'm really sorry about this, but they don't seem to be here. We have given away prizes to the subsequent people, so they won't feel bad about it. They may feel bad about not being here in present. Let's see who's the first place winner. And the first place is Kunal S. Kunal is here. A big round of applause for Kunal, everybody. Can we have Vijay on stage, please? So the prizes that we are giving away to the first prize winner at the Soda Foundation live quiz at the booth is an Amazon voucher worth 2,000 rupees. We also have a t-shirt, a limited edition Soda Foundation t-shirt, a Soda Foundation water bottle, and we also have prizes sponsored by OpenLukang. OpenLukang is another open source project that is in the big data space, and they have graciously sponsored bags, some mugs, and some bottles. So can we have the prizes on stage? Kunal, come on over here, center stage, please. Quickly on the center of stage, facing forward, and we have Vijay from the OpenLukang team who would be handing over the prizes to them. So congratulations with Kunal S for taking part in the live quiz at the booth. Okay then, thank you so much. Yeah, you can. All right. The next talk in this series in the Soda Forum is going to be on data mobility and the Strato. Data mobility, the project deals with multi-cloud data management, and we have with us here today Vishal Ghule, Senior DevOps Engineer at the Zeta Suite, and Praveen Ranjan, Senior System Architect and Maintainer at the Soda Foundation. Are you guys ready? Yes. You can just connect your
cloud and the different clouds. So now in this session, I'm going into more deep how actually we are doing, how you can do as an open source project, and what are the key challenges. All those things we will be discussing in this talk. So my name is Praveen Ranjan, and I am a system architect at Huawei and also part of the Soda Foundation. And I have Vishal with me, and both we will be talking over the data mobility part, how the things happening. And we kept the overall agenda very simple. What is the data mobility? Why actually we need this? And what are the use cases we are trying to solve? And basically, of course, how our project solving those challenges. So I would like to invite Vishal. Please go through the next few slides.
Thank you, Praveen. So firstly, let's understand what is data mobility. With established processes and tools and skill set of data management, corporate data is no longer a static IT asset as it used to be. That means like data is continuously moving from cloud to cloud, cloud to on-prem, on-prem to cloud. And if we, in short, if you want to tell us like what is data mobility means, that getting data whenever and wherever you want, when it required. That is the simple definition of the data mobility. So why actually we need, or what is the need of data mobility? So Gartner have already estimated that 75% of organizations are already using either multi-cloud or the hybrid cloud IT models. So unlike the traditional data, cloud data might be flowing through the hybrid cloud or through the multi-clouds. So also along with these few features, data mobility also create new opportunity in IT teams. So first is the affordably use of the public cloud for backing up, recovery and storing the 2.5 quintillion bytes of data that is generated every day along the world. So another feature is optimize the IT spend by running the workload in the most cost efficient data center or the regions. The third one is to maximize the application performance and the data access speed by workload basis. Along with that, quickly spin up the extra compute resources whenever you require this. And the last one is the mix and match the data storage environment based on the cost and the data compliances requirement. But when we have the new opportunities, it also comes with the new challenges. In this hybrid or the multi-cloud data, how we can control the data, applications or the workload when we no longer require them. This situation calls for the new generation or new intelligent integrated data management model which can bridge this gap. For this multi-data mobility, it creates new challenges like ensuring proper, reliable and backup and recovery for this data. Along with that, we also need something to maintain the continued data compliances. For few regions, there might be the different compliances for the data storing. So we have to obey those regulations. And the third one is the gaining the cloud-wise visibility. So whenever we have data in the different location, whenever we have different application using that data, we also need to gain the visibility of the performance and the data. So these are the few challenges which are created over the data mobility in the multi-cloud or in a hybrid cloud. So Praveen will take you through the use cases which will be discussed earlier or discussed further in next slide. Praveen, over to you.
Okay, so here lot of statements are written for the use cases, but I just want to explain through the diagrams. So if you see this, the left side you can see there are some data. You can see the that data may be stored in the storage, and we have the public clouds. So how, if you have the data, then what you will be doing basically that you will be uploading to the cloud so that you can do some operation. So one of the use cases is that you have some data and you want to migrate to the cloud so that there you can analyze, because you might have some solution or some applications running there, so that you can do the analysis there. So you can easily migrate the data, or you can upload or download the data to the cloud so that you can do some analysis. Similarly, if you have the data and you want to move to the data to the public clouds, because maybe you want to use the more CPU, the more resources from the cloud, and that resources, that CPU, that all those resources you don't have in your in your local storage. So that could be the one use case where you want to migrate the data to the cloud for the better performances. The next is the migration. Again, lot of discussion we just listen that the data migration required, because it may be one application is running good at the AWS and that need to be migrated to the GCP. So there is no actual solution, there is no actual API where the AWS will allow you to migrate to the GCP. Really, I'm saying that.
So what happens if you bring some other solution or third party solution which will do the migration seamlessly from one cloud to the different cloud, and that's the migration service. So if you go little bit in the deep, it contains lot of modules, because migration itself, if you are going to implement the migration service, lot of things need to be take care. The security part you need to take care. If anything goes wrong, how again the rollback things should be happen, all those things need to be take care. So that migration service itself is a third party software we need, because particular cloud does not provide the migration feature directly. And that's the, so these are the use cases we have seen. That there are few more use cases you can see here. In that, all the use cases we are solving through our project known as the Strato. Okay, so simply I will tell you how using the Strato we are doing the solution. Okay, so the multi-cloud or Strato is nothing but the API agnostics. So from the single endpoint, you can basically manage all the cloud vendors, all the known cloud vendors, around 10 cloud vendors we are supporting right now. AWS, including AWS, GCP, Azure, IBM, Huawei, Alibaba, and so many. And the key point of this multi-cloud is, one of the main purpose is the migration of the, or basically the data flow. So managing the data flow in terms of the migration and lifecycle management, this is the main use case of this multi-cloud. And here is some architecture. You can see we have some API gateway, and there are multiple services. All the services are based out of microservices. So all the cloud vendors, basically they support S3 service. And once we start supporting the S3 service, meaning is that by default we are able to support multiple cloud vendors. That's why we have the S3 service. Through that we can access the cloud storage. Similarly, the file service, we can access the file storage of that clouds, the block storage. So these all are blocks are the microservices, the backend service, the data flow service. What I've seen, I've just shown in the few PPTs back, how the data flow engine works, and the data mover service also. From one storage class to different storage class, if you want to move the data, we use the data mover service. And in the backend, adapter means lot of cloud vendors drivers has been written, and that we are using as a backend driver manager. So this is the high level of architecture of the Strato, and the overall scenario is that we can do any migration from one cloud to the different cloud. We can do any migration from cloud to cloud and on-premise to the cloud, cloud to on-premise, all those pros, all the combination we do support. And here some high level diagram of how the data flow we are supporting. As you can see that we have some API and some policy manager. We do connect through that. We have the keystone for providing that authentication and security. Who is migrating, whether he is an admin or normal tenant, all those things managed by the keystone. Whatever the plan you have, suppose you might be have some plan that I want to migrate not now, maybe after 30 minutes. So that also plan you can save in the migration plan, and that will be stored in our database. And definitely some scheduler will be running, which will be keep tracking your plan and keep checking that what is the time, what you have set. So this all about the high level of the multi-cloud. Anvit, do we have time? Enough time? Okay, fine then. So thank you. That's it. Yeah, that will be great. So that is from my side. Actually, due to the time bound, I couldn't show the demo. But of course, if you have any doubts, you can we can discuss now. So thank you for joining.
I think there's a question, and maybe any other questions in the house. We can take some questions. We've kept some time now for questions. We are in time, but the demo will go very long. So, Ananta, right?
Yeah. Ananta.
Yes, please.
Hi. When you explain data mobility and all those things,
So basically, there was one use case in my previous organization where synchronization was a big problem. So data synchronization. So in the sense, what I'm saying is, so when there is huge amount of data being fed into the database, so we have only one uh, cloud provider to use for. Then there was another cloud provider which came across, so then we had to talk with them and all those. Then it became very difficult for us to keep the synchronization of the data, because if the user puts in something, uploads something on the interface, then suddenly something goes down in one cloud and it shifts to another cloud, then there is nothing else. Again, it's a very bad experience for the user. It's like, this was a very typical use case. So uh, anything which is taken care from Strato in this perspective?
Uh, okay. Actually, you not only asked the question to me, I think you asked the question in general. And this is a really pinpoint. It's giving the pain like that, how the data basically replicated across the multiple clouds. Okay, so currently we are not supporting the replication across the clouds, because whenever you are talking about the syncing, definitely replication will come into the picture. Then only you can manage the data in no time. The data should be available to the both clouds. Actually, currently the Strato is supporting the migration. So migration means you have the data and you want to migrate it. There is no guarantee that the data will be available just now available to the other clouds. It may take its own time. Okay, so for syncing purpose and from the replication part, currently we are not there yet. Okay.
Anyone has questions on multi-cloud, Strato, Kahu? Any questions on that? Well, if not, we can switch over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal, and thank you, Praveen. A big round of applause, everybody. Can we have you on center stage, please, Vishal and Praveen? Keep the applause going, keep the applause going. This is a big round of applause to Vishal Ghule, everybody. Thank you so much, Vishal. This is for you. Yes. And keep the applause going for Praveen Ranjan, everybody. Thank you so much, Praveen. Thank you so much. And, I'm feeling generous again. Time for some prizes. Let's see. So we conducted an online Soda Foundation trivia, Kubernetes and Golang quiz. And this was open for the last, I think, week or so. And we closed the quiz today afternoon. And we had a good amount of participation on that quiz. And now we're going to announce the winners for the online quiz. Let's see. The prizes, again, it's going to be Amazon vouchers worth 3,000, 2,000, and 1,000 rupees for the first, second, and third. We also have some goodie bags and prizes sponsored by OpenLooking for all the winners. We also will be announcing a few consolation prizes, which I'll be coming to very soon. But the third place winner, Himanshu Billore, are you here? No? Himanshu, are you here? No? Okay, no problem. Let me just quickly check. Manisha Shetty, are you here? No? K. Raghavendra? No, I confirmed. There were two Raghavendras. The code Yash. Yash, are you here? Utkarsh Shah. And Naresh Ukhija. Naresh, we had to give him because he was leaving right away. Okay, let me see. The second place winner is Muhammad Zishan. Are you here? Oh, second place winner of the online Soda Foundation Trivia, Kubernetes and Golang quiz is Muhammad Zishan, and we have him with us here. Come on, quickly, run over to the stage. Congratulations, you win yourself a goodie bag from Soda Foundation, as well as a voucher, an Amazon voucher worth 2,000 rupees. Come on over to the center of the stage. We also have prizes. We also have prizes sponsored by OpenLooking. All right, congratulations, Mohammed Zishan. Okay,
Moment of truth. This is the final prize I'm giving away to the winners of the quizzes. More to come for you guys. Don't worry. I don't forget you. Okay. First place at the online Sora Foundation trivia quiz is Saida Zahra Azmi. Congratulations, Saida. Big round of applause for Saida, everybody. Can we have Vijay on stage, please? Sai, can we have you on stage as well, please? Shiva, please, can you also join him on stage? You can hand over the open looking gifts. And yeah, just take it, yeah. Sai and Shiva. Come on over, one second, just all three. Bani. Can you just go to the center of the stage? Congratulations, Saida. Take a step forward, yeah, with the light. Come, both of you together, please. Together, all of you can stay in there, all of you can go there. Join, sir, please. You can give the gifts also. Please, sir. No, give it away. She is the first place winner, so we give her all the gifts. She can hold all, yes. She will manage. A round of applause for Saida, everybody. Thank you so much, Vijay. Thank you, Shiva, and thank you, Sai. Do you want me to ask any questions? Do you want any gifts? See, gifts, yes. Questions, no. How will you win the gifts? If I ask questions. Cause and action. What, man? Okay. This is a question. If you attended the Soda booth, you should know this. What is the Soda Data Lake project called? Chup. What is the Soda Data Lake project called? I have all the Soda people raising hand. What is this? Search. Data Lake project or data. Okay, I see a hand raised. Como is there? What's your name? Tarun gets the right answer. Can we give him a bottle, please? It's Friday evening, we give him an empty bottle. All right, congratulations. And with that, let's now move on to the next talk for the day. This is going to be on observability and the Delfin. Observability it's all to deal with heterogeneous storage monitoring and getting telemetry data from your storage devices. We have with us Tijo Thomas, lead solution architect at Imply, Joseph VP, lead architect at Huawei and the maintainer of the Delfin project at Soda Foundation, and Devansh Jain, who is a software engineer and the contributor to the Soda Foundation Delfin project. Over to you, Tijo. Yeah, HDMI. Connect it here. Very quick question. What is the Soda Data Mobility project called? Oh, madam has raised her hand. What's the answer? Strato is it. What's your name, ma'am? Madhurima De. Congratulations, Madhurima. You can give a bottle for that answer. Strato. Very quickly, her hand just went up. I'm pretty sure she has been taking notes to these questions. Very nicely done. Strato is the data management multi-cloud project. Well, we are ready now, so over to you, Tijo.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the organizers for open source India as well as Soda Foundation. Thank for this wonderful opportunity. So I am Tijo Thomas. I'm lead solution architect at Imply. And along with me, Joseph Varapalli and Devansh Jain. Today, the topic for today is about observability and the initiative we have taken for the observability, that is the Delfin. So just before we start, just want to bring some context around it. This is something which we are getting from the industry report, that is the application container market is drastically increasing. So if you take a revenue stream from application container market, It's almost a 26.5% CAGR every year on year. And from the CAS perspective, it's increasing at the rate of almost 35%. This is expected to be in the range of from 2021 to 2026. There is going to be the growth potential. And if you look from that perspective, there is a installed base of container instances. It's growing at a rate of 62.1%. This is the data which collated from 2019 to 2022, probably, end of this year. So in fact, one of the major activity which is happening on the cloud itself is the Kubernetes deployment or migration from the VM-based application migrating to the Kubernetes is one of the key, activity happening in the cloud itself. It could be Kubernetes cloud, hybrid on-prem in the sense there can be private data centers and the Kubernetes deployment in the private data centers that is also growing at a very fast pace. And from the company perspective, IT strategy perspective itself, this is one of the key strategy in any of the IT business to rapidly transition from VMs to container. Okay, so just don't want to further take more time on the introduction or the context. This is the summary. Containerization is a general trend, and container storage also is trending. Large distributed container applications are moving to containerization. What I mean by that is even the big data systems are even moving to container. So that's a big shift in the industry. So earlier only applications used to move. Now that is not the case. Where the resources are heavily used, it's more on the backend processing. So this backend processing also are moving to Kubernetes. Now, today's topic is about observability. The reason this topic is relevant is as all the ecosystem is migrating to the Kubernetes. The observability made a major role in monitoring and identifying the problems in the entire ecosystem. As of now, the topic is so relevant because now almost all kind of technology related to Kubernetes is coming together in a single place, and the complexity of different application as well as the application layer as well as the stacks below it also getting moved into a single place, and monitoring this one becomes one of the biggest challenge. Why it's challenge? We'll get into it later. Now, I just want to talk about what is monitoring and what is observability. There are some key difference. The key difference is often I've seen people use monitoring and observability as in an interchangeable fashion. Then what is observability? What is different? What it is different from others? Now, assume if you have an incident, this particular incident happened, and the pattern behind it, then it's easy to monitor. You can write scripts, or you can build systems to identify those patterns and avoid those kind of situations. There are AI systems available which identify this kind of patterns available, and you can build a system to monitor those kind of patterns and avoid some certain kind of issues happening in your production workload. Now that means it's a known unknowns. Known unknowns means you know that such issue happens. You don't know when this issue can happen. So there is monitoring. So there is monitoring available for this. Now, how do you identify unknown unknowns? Unknown unknowns means you don't know what is the problem could be, but you don't know when this problem can happen. So this is called known unknowns. So for that, what to be done? So if you think normally people, if a organization who is supporting this kind of support for a Kubernetes platform, and the customer reports a particular issue, normally what happens is the support team get on a call with them, or support team go into the logs and see from the logs perspective what can be done, right? Looking at the logs, seeing some particular patterns. These are the general thing. Now just imagine that your support team spread across multiple technology. For example, the issue might have actually caused because of a storage issue, but it's reflected in the application. Now the application team need to get on a call, the support team need to get on a call. At the same time, they need the next level of support person, maybe at the container level, then sometimes maybe at the PV level, persistent volume level, support need to be in the call, and coordinating across the team becomes a critical challenge. So that's the place where observability come into picture. Now, what we need to do? So observabilities are nothing but it's built upon three different pillars. Now, one is about the metrics. Each device emits metrics. Not only device, each services, everything emits metrics. These metrics need to be collected by somebody. There are logs. Sometimes some of the systems emits bunch of logs. These logs need to be captured, and not only that, there are some instrumentation to be done at the components level, and this need tracing, right? So we have logs from one particular component and logs from another component. How do you merge this log together? Because these logs are runs in TVs, and how do you figure out which data is relevant for your scenario? And mixing them, merging them, sequencing them, these are a big challenge, right? And you need to do it on a case-to-case basis. So now, if we have all those the metrics and logs, everything at your disposal, then it's maybe possible to explore those metrics and figure out what's the problem is. Now, once we identify what's the problem means, once we identify a series of events which may happen, which follow some particular pattern, then it makes sense to create a monitoring system for that particular pattern. Now, to identify this pattern, right now, we need to collate the data in a single place or in some sort of standardized approach. You need a right interface for doing it. Okay, so that's one of the challenges. Right now, we don't have anything as of now. Yeah. We already talked about many of these things. So what ultimately the benefit out of it is the faster identification of the issues. That's a primary goal. And exploring a issue happens. What is the root cause for the issue? How this can be avoided? And these are the primary motivation. Now, is this a one-time activity? No, this activity is not one-time. Every time you have new releases in multiple components, whenever a new release happens, you need to be continuously monitoring this, because you believe that sometimes once everything is deployed, everything is static, there may not be much issues happening in the system. But within the ecosystem, every components are evolving and changing, and new versions are coming up, and this require a continuous monitoring. Right? So that's a primary goal, is to faster identify of the issues. Now, why it is so difficult, or I would say why it's so important? It's hard to anticipate any issue which can happen. At the same time, nowadays, if you look at this, DevOps are moving to DevOps AI or AI DevOps, because in humanly it may not be possible to monitor this stuff because of the volume of that data, varieties of data, the knowledge base to monitor different set of data set is different across various components. And this is one of the key headache for most of the SRE teams, system reliability engineers, is constantly scratching their head how to handle this kind of varieties of data. Now, why it is challenging? Primarily because the source silos, the source of the data is distributed maybe from the application level till the microkernel in the storage, right? So the variety of data is one of the key challenges of the source of the data. Variety in the source of the data is the key challenge. We need a proper adapter to pick those data. Second part, observable system design is one trend which is coming up in the system architecture itself. Just wanted to know how many of you are in system architect here? Just raise your hands. System architects. Yep. So in your system, how many of you have designed something for metric? You might be designing a device driver. In that device driver, have you ever considered emitting a metric? I don't think. Never ever. Maybe some log, right? If you are logging your issues, the logs will push to any of the monitoring system in an infrequent manner, right? But if you are designing your any of the system application or system drivers, and your design itself holds a place to emit metrics, which is lacking now. Most of the enterprise system itself doesn't have that capability. And on top of that, since there is no proper design, many tools get evolved out of it, which are proprietary. Now these tools, how to interact with each other, there is no standardized approach for interacting with each other, which means that if I have an application problem, I may have to go and figure out what is the issue in maybe 10 different systems to find out what is my issue. This thing's getting really hard. If this get hard, the challenge is this resolution of a particular issue becomes a challenge. I've seen that applications and new features are out, are ready, but not in a position to deploy into production. And this will be pushed only in the next product, not in the current version of the product. It's not people, enterprise are scared. What if it goes bad? No? Why that scariness comes into place is because there is no proper way of observe those data. And on top of that, these data are unstructured. That adds more complexity to the observability Yeah. So there are systems, analytical system, AI and ML systems currently available to to observe the system behavior to some extent. Now we'll talk about some of the challenges and trends which is in the industry. Cloud native, basically, all the cloud native projects are really growing pretty fast. And also the area of observability also growing in a pretty fast manner. Yeah, so I just don't want to explain about this. See, in the monitoring world, these are the products. I'm sure this is not just the products alone. There are 100 other products which is in the market which solves the monitoring. But if one product is solving the problem, then I don't think there is a scope for another product, which means that the one product is not solving the problem. That's the reason n number of other products coming to picture. Now, each product has its own space, which shows that there is no unified way of solving a particular problem. Now, again, in the space of log analysis, there are n number of other tools. In the space of tracing, there are other set of products. In the space of chaos engineering, I got surprised to see that chaos engineering, oh, such an engineering division is there. Oh my God, okay, it's something like a disaster engineering, right? It's pretty interesting. Now again, the continuous optimization. So there are all related to, in other way, related to observability, right? Now, in world of CSI, since a volume health monitoring, we have there are standards, drivers to detect abnormal volume conditions under the storage system, and reports the event to the, basically this is nothing but a PV metrics will be emitted. Now, cloud vendors, every cloud vendors provide their own metrics, which we can integrate with open source tools like Prometheus, Grafana, and stuff like that. So there is a motion from the proprietary to support something really open source. So that is in place. And the same thing is applicable for even for the software storage vendors. And there are various specific integration points for monitoring and in terms of observability. That a lot of work is continuously going on, how to handle the situation, what metrics. So first of all, we need to standardize the metrics, and these metrics are different for different system. There are a lot of work going on in the AI and ML level to figure out how to identify the patterns which causes the issue. Now, in short, if you look at that, the problem definition, it's so complex. It's complex and distributed, and it's dynamic. There are application-aware performance issues. There are silos where there are a lot of tools around. No tool is better, but all tools are some of the other point solving some of the problem. And very limited, currently very limited observability support from CSIs as of now. It's heterogeneous, it's hybrid monitoring across cloud. Currently, a lot of work need to be done on the AI and ML range to unify this. Legacy storages are complex, lack the support. What to do with this hardware just because of it doesn't have a proper observability APIs? Should we dump those hardwares? Yeah, these are some of the questions to be answered. So what are the challenges? So these are the challenges. These are the critical challenges we encounter. There are a lot of research and developments are going on. Huge business opportunity, huge potentials in these areas. Okay, so is there anything SODA is doing in terms of this? Yeah, so I would like to invite Joseph to talk about what all other things which are happening in these areas. Excited to invite him. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Tijo Thomas, for a nice introduction of observability feature. And in SODA, we are trying to do some work on observability. That Delfin is our product for storage monitoring. So we want to add some kind of observability features into that. So I'll be introducing Delfin, and my colleague will be doing some demos on this Delfin features. So firstly, it's a Delfin. Delfin is a Spanish word for dolphin. So SODA's main mascot is the dolphins. So Delfin is very key project. One of the productized one of the project that is already in the production is Delfin. Delfin is a unified
Yeah, so hi everyone. In the interest of time, I'll be quickly showing you the demo. So as you can see, this is the dashboard, SODA dashboard. So it is a UI through which you can test various functionalities of our framework projects. So currently dashboard supports Delfin and Multicloud. So first I'll be showing you how we register a storage. So here I'll be selecting the demo storage and a demo driver. So for the access, we use REST or SSH parameters. Here I'll be specifying REST parameters. So as you can see the notification, the storage device has been registered successfully. So through this menu, we can see the summary of all the storages that are registered with Delfin. As you can see, it is syncing right now. It will take some time. So I had registered one storage about 2 hours ago. So we can see that first. So if we go inside the storage that is registered, we can see there are different storage pools that are there. Yeah. So as you can see, we have various storage pools, volumes, controllers, ports, etc. So these are all the resources with the storage that we have. In the capacity window, we can visualize the array usable capacity, the raw capacity that is available, the volume overview, and the storage pools overview. So as we can see, it has generated some random alerts. As it is a demo storage, it will generate some random alerts. So there are various features that we have for each storage that is registered. So we can update the access info. We can configure an alert source. We can remove an alert source. We can sync storage device as and when we require. So now for the performance monitoring part, we can select the storage ID of the storage that we had registered and the resource type, which can be controller, disk, port, file system, etc. So as you can see, we have the visualization of the response time, throughput, and input output operations per second. Now in the alert manager section, we can see that the alerts are divided based on the severity level. So we have 3 severity levels here: critical, fatal and major. So if we expand the menu, we can see the information that a backend link has gone down. So these are the 3 functionalities that we have in Delfin: the storage summary, performance monitoring and alerts section. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Check. Tijo or Joseph, can we have you on stage? Any questions on observability in general and the Delfin project? We do have time for some questions. Can we have you on stage, please? Yes, please. I'll join you on stage as well. With that, we'd like to thank Tijo Thomas, Joseph VP, and Devansh Jain. You can keep your laptop there. Sai, can we have you on stage, please? We're making you walk your daily step count. Please come on stage. Can we have you on center of Shestijo, please? Kindly a round of applause for the speakers and a round of applause for yourself as well. You've been such a patient audience. You're here with us through the day. Thank you so much, Tijo Thomas. Please stand in front in the light. We have some beautiful lighting here. Thank you to Joseph. And thank you to and thanks to Devansh Jain. Thank you so much, Sai, and thank you everyone. All right. It's time for the penultimate session of the day. That's the second last session, but this is going to be more of a talk among friends. We just wanted to have an interaction with some of the contributors to open source who also contributed to Soda Foundation projects and have been part of the ecosystem, have been part of the community, have been coming to different events. Let me call upon stage Nikita Pandey, who's a developer and individual contributor who works in PAS. Shushut Nagaraj, who is a final year Bachelor of Engineering student at JSS ATE Bangalore, and Amit Karnam, who is a final year engineering student at SJPIT Bangalore. A big round of applause for them, everybody. Please join me on stage. Can we have some mics, please? I think we have one over here. Check. You can have one. Yeah. Let just join us on stage. Let's just stand on. One more mic. Can we get one more mic, please? Just check. Yeah. All right. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good.
You're doing good? Okay, stand in front, no? Little in front. We've got some nice light over here. So, good day at OSI. Enjoyed it?
Yep, first time at OSI.
First time at OSI. Oh, lively. Yeah. This is a good experience to have. We'll talk about your experience at OSI. Maybe it's on. Check.
Hello.
It's okay, yeah. Speak loudly, man. All right. So, like I mentioned, we just want to have a conversation over here. We just want to talk about what is the experience of somebody who comes to an open source project and how they get into it, right? So, very quickly, I just told you what they do, but then you can introduce yourself and just go on from there.
Yeah, so one suggestion or one quote I would like to say is, there is no better feeling when your first pull request get accepted by a open source community which you want to contribute to or be part of. So I am like open source lies at my heart. So I am very obliged to be part of this OSI 2022, and thanks to Soda community, because of which I am here standing at Soda Forum. So let me quickly introduce about myself. Like myself, Nikita, I have close to 10 years of IT experience. I have worked in different organizations and different areas. Like I started working in tax and accounting domain. Then I moved to embedded systems for aeronautics industry. And then I got introduced to open source and cloud technologies while working at Huawei. And Then I worked in couple of fintech organizations, and I continued the open source journey, and here I am as part of Soda Foundation. Thank you.
There you go, Shushit. Mic for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Shushrit. I'm currently a final year student at JSSAT. So I love working with technologies like Java, Spring Boot, and I love to be a part of the open source community, contributing to projects and just being a part of the community. And yeah, glad to be here. And thanks to Soda Foundation for giving me this opportunity. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And Amit.
Hi all, I'm Amit and I'm a final year student at SJBIT. My open source journey started a year back. I started just looking into projects and contributing, and now I'm here with Soda Foundation. Thank you.
So, like, which is the first project that you worked on? Amit, let's start with you.
It was not a project of some organization, it
Okay.
was just a personal project
Yeah,
of
yeah.
somebody else. I did some basic UI changes for them.
Okay.
And that's how I got.
So it was a personal GitHub project. So see, that's a learning right away. No, it does not have to be a well-known project. It does not have to be an organization level project. It could just be your friend's project which he has put up on GitHub, and you can also contribute. Who knows? That can be the next big app, that somebody picks up. So good point there. Sushil, how about you?
Yeah, same. Like he said, even I started, how I started was, it was one of my friend's project.
Oh, same friend?
No.
Different friend. Okay,
It was
okay.
actually due to Hacktoberfest. that we-
Oh, Hacktoberfest. Again, so this is an event. So we'll come to that point. But yeah.
That's
so-
how I started.
Okay, so you just made some changes in that particular project?
Yeah.
And then
An individual project.
did he use those changes, or he said no, I'm not using them?
No, he merged those.
He merged those. Okay, very good. Good friend, best friend must be. How about you, Nikita?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, like open source was something I got introduced while working in past team at Huawei.
Okay.
So there I got to work on couple of projects which are in Kubernetes scheduler. Some of them which I could name is Poseidon and Firmament.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the start of my open source journey.
So this is the other extreme, So first, some friend's project which nobody knows about, but he contributed because he wanted to do it. And this is the other extreme where you're actually contributing to from an organization to a project which is in production, right? So that's the beauty of open source. You can do it at any point of time. You don't have to really wait for being into a company, in the organization, or as part of your job. You can start off at any point of time. Now let me ask you another question. Okay, with you maybe yes, because part of work, but when you choose a project, what is the first thing you look at? Maybe not the first project, but now that you've been working for a while on open source, what is the first thing you look at when you choose an open source project to start contributing?
While I started with open source, it was just technologies I was familiar with.
Okay.
But now I look for interesting projects. I mean, domain I want to pursue later in my career or something like that.
Okay.
So a project that are interesting basically, so I can move ahead and.
When you say interesting, what is that interesting part?
It's basically a personal choice.
Okay.
But again, some people are interested in databases, some people are interested in application development. It's a personal choice.
What is your personal choice?
Application development.
Application development. Okay. Nikita, how about you?
Yeah, so I prefer to look into those projects which I use on day-to-day basis. Like
Okay.
Whichever projects which I use it, I try to look into like what is the technology behind it and how I can help that project,
Right.
because I know the pain points of those projects.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is the easiest
So
way.
basically, you want to solve something you're doing on a day-to-day basis in your work, and you want to see if there's something available to you can contribute to it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. So again, learning from that would be like find a solution to a problem that you're facing, and maybe contribute to an open source project which will help solve that. So that is a good choice actually. That's nice. How about you, Sushil? What's
Like they said, I got started with those projects which I'm already familiar with, those
Okay.
technologies
Okay.
which I already know. So from there, like open source projects, like they involve a lot of components. So you just know one component, and when you start contributing, you get to know a lot of things. So that's how
I think that's also another point. Like sometimes you just know the one component and you contribute, and then from there you grow your knowledge as well. So good point. Now let's go to the other part. Like okay, you are contributing, you're finding out how to contribute, which projects. But what are the challenges to start contributing? Like from your perspective, Nikita.
So for any newbie, right? What is the main challenge which they face is what will be my first project I should contribute to, right? So some of them which they already mentioned, like you should start with the project, one that interests you. because that will be the project which you will get passionate about and will continue to contribute to. So it will have your active contribution, and it will also act as an open resume for your future opportunities. So
Very important point which I wanted to bring out as well. It adds to your resume. So even though it may not be part of your current work, it, or maybe if you're studying, as two of the members here are, you can add this to your resume at any point of time. Even if you are, let's say, 20 years in the industry but have not worked on open source, this will be a great addition. You can say that I have 20 plus years strong experience in the industry and I am an open source contributor to these projects. So that is like an addition to anybody's resume. So that's a very good point, Nikita. Thank you so much. How about you? What are the challenges you think you face, or maybe most newbies face when they are contributing?
So most students, what they face is in universities and colleges, we are used to like just write one program, lab program. But when we are exposed to the open source world, like those are big projects involving a lot of components. So just wrapping our head around that, understanding the system, and even setting the environment, local environment, that might be the first step as a
Okay, so
challenge.
the first hurdle itself is that maybe you are not used to writing so much of code, or for a matter, running so much of code at one go. Could be, yes. I think from the student's perspective, that is something which you will face maybe. But then, how did you overcome it? Like, what is your idea? Like,
so since it's an open source project, there are a lot of maintainers who help us in understanding bit by bit in a phased manner. So we just show the direction and we start learning from
so how did you ask them? Like, did you just call them up? Like, have your phone numbers for everyone?
No. Most of the projects have Slack groups and communication channels.
Okay.
So through that, you join and introduce yourself.
Okay. So I think that's another point I wanted to bring out is, communication channels are available for all open source projects. So primarily most were using Slack, some have moved to Discord. If nothing else, there are issues, the issues which are there in GitHub, right? And now there's a new feature called discussion forums in GitHub. You can use them to communicate with the maintainers, with the developers, and they will be able to help you out in getting started. So even if you face some beginning challenges, I think you should just keep trying and tell them that you tried this and I don't know what to do after that. So that will be the better way to go about it. Amit, how about you?
Me being a student, I face the same problems, right?
Same problem, always same problem. Copy paste like student only.
No, I mean, you're familiar with writing few hundreds of lines of code, and then you suddenly move to open source project, you see 100 folders. Right? So that's challenging in itself.
But one question I have, you wrote hundreds of lines of code as a student? Because I remember I wrote my final year project was 75 lines of code. I'm just kidding. Please carry on, Amit.
So that's something we face as students.
Okay.
Right? So the complexity of the project is very large.
Okay.
So then how you deal with that is you just read the README files and understand, and just build the products in your local.
Okay.
And then try and approach the maintainer or someone from the community. They'll help you out for the next steps.
All readmes are helpful?
If it's a older project, then it will have a very good structured README. But in case of new projects, I have not found any READMEs that are very well structured.
Okay.
So you can in that scenario, we can just contact the maintainers or people in the community. So they'll be helpful.
We can try to improve the
README. Yeah, that's a good point.
You can give the mic maybe. I think that mic died.
We can also improve the README.
Absolutely. Why I asked that question is that that's how Amit and me also started interacting. He was trying out one of the projects and the README was not working. So then he contributed back to the README, and that's another way to get into it. You don't have to start code contributions right away. You can start with installation and testing some projects. Start following the READMEs or instructions. And if those READMEs don't work, you can contribute to the README itself. So the best way to do it, I think that is the safest way to get into any developer community. All right, one final thought from everyone and then we'll wind up this session. What are your suggestions for the community? Like what do you suggest they do, and say one point to take away from here?
Yeah, so one takeaway would be open source contribution is not a sprint but a marathon, is what I would like to quote.
What a quote. Open source is not a sprint, it's a marathon, so long term. Okay, how about you, Sushruth?
My only suggestion would be to get involved in the community, because it provides a lot of opportunities later in life.
Involved how? Like what do you mean involved?
How do you mean involved in the community? Because there can be multiple ways,
Yeah,
right?
like that only, not just contributing to the code, being a part of meetups and what
Right.
events, getting to know people, networking. It increases the chance.
Right. And how about you, Amit?
Basically, get involved in an open source project. It's a great learning curve.
Right.
And yeah, you will learn a lot, through people who are more experienced than you, and also through our own experiences going through the project.
Okay. Thank you so much. But I want to add to what Sushil said. They said, get involved. That's exactly what they are doing. They are not from one company or something. They're two of them are students from different colleges. Nikita is from a different company. So this is a part, like you come together as a community, start helping out, get involved in the events. You say that I want to take charge of something or I want to do something, even if it's not something you've done before. Because maybe in your daily job or your college, you may not be able to get the opportunity to do all these things. But this is the kind of place where, yes, you can take it up and do it. So thank you, Amit. Thank you, Shushruth. And thanks, Nikita. Do we have Sanil here? Sanil is here? Sanil and Shiva, can you just call him? Can we have Sanil and Shiva on stage, please? Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, ragging is going on right now. So we've just had a big round of applause for everybody. Come on, guys. Thank you. Let's keep the energy up with few of us that are here. Thank you so much. And a big round of applause for yourself as well. Even louder. Come on. Let's keep it going. This is come forward in the light. Congratulations to, yeah, you can just keep the mics there, yeah. To Nikita. You can go a little that side, yeah. Shiva, Bunny. No, Shiva. Sanil, Shiva also can come in the photo that side. Both of you, photo. Shiva, that side, please. Nikita, you can go. Yeah, with Nikita. Yes, please. Amit, congratulations, Amit, and thank you so much. And thank you, Sushruth. We can take one group photo, everybody. Come. So, Sanil, group photo, please. Group photo, please. In the front, in the light. Even I'll join for this photo.
No.
Take these photos also. Thank you so much. I hope this session was helpful. Any questions on this? What we just discussed. We just had a session, a chat among us. But does anybody have any thoughts, any questions? Anyone? Yes, Shivai.
For the beginners who are over here, one of the usual areas of concern is that a lot of times even students or even working professionals might get overwhelmed and they might have imposter syndrome when trying to contribute to open source projects just because of the size of the project. And given the fact that they haven't navigated that project or such kind of projects before, it can be very daunting for them to and a lot of times 90% of the times they will just drop the project and they'll stop contributing just because of getting scared of the size of the project and being nervous of actually asking their doubts to the committee. So what are some of the things that they can probably do, especially if they are in that part of their career, and probably what's the most effective strategy of actually navigating through a project when it comes to understanding the code base?
Okay. First and foremost, I think everyone I keep, whoever I meet, open source contributors, right? I tell them that no question is simple to be asked. What I mean is, everybody thinks that if I ask a simple question, they'll think I don't know anything and they will make fun of me. I think that also comes from the fact that when we are studying, we get used to that kind of a thing that we don't want to stand in front of our lecturers or peers and ask a question and then made fun of or being ridiculed. We need to start getting out of that mindset. You ask a question. It can be as simple as, I tried to do this, but it is not working. Like a basic step, the first step. Ask that question. Like if you don't know the programming language that the whole code is written in, you ask them, I don't know this, how do I start? If you don't ask, okay, you will not get any answer or any solution. So there is no point in saying that I don't know because you've not tried. So the point I'm trying to make is that you need to attempt something first.
Only then you can ask. In the open source community, if you don't do anything, you will not get a response. But if you take the first step, there will be 10 people who will be ready to help you. That's the first thought I can tell you. Shivai, your question was when there is a larger code base or something where we don't know much about it, how do we approach it, right? So two things here. One is, first of all, whether you really know the content or not, like what needs to be done. If not, then you need to start looking at the prerequisites that are required for that particular project and start working on the basics of those things. Without that, obviously you will not be able to even understand how to get into it. But if you have the prerequisites, and that's the second part where you said someone who's already in the industry but facing the imposter syndrome, like, I seem to know everything but I don't know what to do here. I think that is where working with the maintainers or a community comes into picture. You start saying like, yes, I have this background but I am not able to get onto this. You need to lose that ego of yours first of all. If you're in the industry that way, ask a question, ask somebody what to be done. If you're not able to get information online, try to find the local meetup group for that particular project or that particular code base or maybe something which is related to that. Attend those meetups. If there's no meetup, there are so many webinars happening nowadays, right? We conducted so many meetups online. We may want to connect. For example, if you feel that you're in a community where you can conduct, we'll conduct a meetup online as well. So ask those questions or join such meetups, get the basic knowledge. Once you get the basic knowledge, yes, there will be another step that you need to start working on it. And again, you'll have the next step where you'll start failing, you'll have to ask questions. But every time I come to the same point again, ask questions. Keep asking. Don't feel that if I ask, people will feel that I don't know anything. If that is the thing, then you'll not learn anything. Only when somebody teaches you will you learn something. Sometimes self-learning happens, but mostly people will teach you, okay, go here, do something like this, maybe try this. It may take more time because you may still be learning along with it, right? But my point is that yes, you need to start going the basics right. From there, you need to start building on top of that. Does that answer your question? Any thoughts? Yes, sir. Yeah. Sure.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Syed Mushtaq.
Yes, sir. Tell me.
So I just wanted to ask, like, are there any competitors for Soda Foundation? So I can see that you're trying to collaborate. There is AWS, there is Microsoft Azure, and many clouds. You're trying to collaborate, all of them.
Okay.
So do you have any competitors in the market?
Okay. So I think, did you attend any of the sessions or were you at the booth, at the Soda Foundation booth? I ask you this question because there's a point behind that. Because we were trying to explain this. If not, I can do it right away. So the Soda Foundation is not really a company. Okay. It's a open source foundation, which is a sub foundation of the Linux Foundation. We are under the Linux Foundation on the lines of CNCF. Okay. So it does not mean that we collaborate with companies, we rather use their services or their products and we try to bring out solutions. Okay, so there is not really a competitor or a maybe some to the foundation. Maybe another foundation from some other organization can be there, but there's not really something that way. Okay, other than that, when you said about bringing together clouds, right? It's part of a product or project that we are working on is Multicloud, the Strato project, right, for data mobility. So what we are trying to do is solve a problem of moving data from one cloud to another, or moving your data from one cloud service provider to another service provider based on some requirement you have. It doesn't mean that we are collaborating with those companies, rather they have their services like AWS, GCP, the service available, like they have the cloud storage and all of that, right? So we are using those services that we use, so they can also use our project to move their data or something like that. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, got it.
Got it? Yes, sir. I think Sanil, I was about to ask you also.
So you were asking about the projects?
No. He was about the foundation itself.
Similar projects are there or not?
No, I was asking about whether Soda Foundation has any competitors in the market.
Okay.
So do you face any challenges?
Okay, so market commercial part, I think he has already mentioned, but I just wanted to clarify certain points. That see, Soda Foundation has a competition in the market or in the industry. I will just change it to market to industry. Yes, we have competition. The competitions in terms of competition with respect to any other commercial organization and Soda Foundation is different.
Yeah.
For example, what are we trying to do? We are trying to do a global unified platform for connecting to any platform, to any storage, for example. So Delfin case, what are we providing? In Delfin, we are providing a heterogeneous storage monitoring. In the sense, with single API, you can take monitoring data from NetApp storage, HP storage, Huawei storage, IBM storage. This is what we are trying to provide. Why? Because this will be beneficial for users. Because in their data centers, they will have a freedom to buy NetApp, IBM, HP, etc. That is their need. But if I am IBM, I am HP, will I like it so much? No, right? Because I want my users to use only IBM storage. That is the way the situation currently. So we have competition from the vendors because they don't buy this idea of unified solutions today or maybe yesterday. Today, they are realizing that unless they are part of the ecosystem, things will not move forward because they need to go up in the value chain,
right?
Not at the same level. Beyond storage boxes, they can do much more. That's what NetApp is doing today, PSO, Pure Storage is doing today, IBM is doing today. So they will come. But today, we have competition from vendors. Now you asked about cloud vendors, right? Same problem with Strato. What are we trying to do? We are trying to move data from Amazon to GCP. Will Amazon like it? It's their business. We are moving data to Google, right? So that kind of competitions are there, but we believe that the user is the king.
Exactly.
Tomorrow they will drive it to the point saying that we want unified solution. That's when this kind of project or foundation will be successful.
Yep.
Answer?
Yeah, great.
That was a great question though. Can we have a bottle to him, Syed, please?
I also want.
You also want a bottle. Okay, there are 2 bottles there. Yeah. Yes. We'll take one final question, then we have the closing remarks. So it's going good. So let's have a question. I think it's on. It's on. You can just talk.
So it not a question.
Sure.
It's a general question.
What's your name
My
first?
name is Khalid Khan.
Hi Khalid. Yeah.
So I'm coming from a very remote place from Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
And this is a first open source India thing. I think I have heard and attended.
Oh, very nice.
And
Thank you so much, Khalid.
now coming to Soda Foundation, I have listened this name for first time.
Okay.
Because I was not in this community or I'm not in Bangalore.
Right.
I was from very remote place. No. So I got to know about this after a long time.
Right.
I was completed my BTech also since last year.
Okay. Okay.
So this kind of thing has to be happen in remote places also. Like so what Soda
Okay.
Foundation is doing, what the Open Source India
Okay.
doing. This kind has to be. We have to select some random remote colleges also to create
Sure.
awareness and also about open sources also. So
Okay.
this may
Suggestion. That's a very good suggestion, Khalid. Thank you so much. And yeah, we do understand. We want to do that as well. We are trying. We've started with what is simple at the moment, basically around us. But as what you mentioned, remote colleges, wherever possible from our side, like the members who are working here, for the foundation, yes, we try to evangelize. India is big. Internet now is available everywhere, not as much as earlier, but now it is better. So hopefully it starts reaching out. It takes a while, but then it's people like you. See, you've taken interest, you've stayed here the whole day listening to us, and now you're making the suggestion, which I feel very good about because you can spread the word as well. You can become a part of the community, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah, I really want to be a part of.
Awesome. So Khalid, just connect with us after this. We'll be around here. Be a part of the community, and you can take up some, you can lead that activity as well.
Definitely.
So we'll be encouraging you, we'll give you the support that is needed. So this is how we want to grow it also. This is one of those platforms. OSI is one of the platforms. Similarly, we'll be conducting our own events whenever possible here in India. The last 2 years was really bad. Because of that, we were just conducting virtual events. Not everybody could attend them because, again, the publicity doesn't go everywhere. But now we will try. And with people like you also supporting us, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to do well.
Definitely, I would like.
Thank you so much, Khalid. Yeah, I think we can give him a T-shirt as well, please, or maybe one of those. I think we have a bag over there. Thank you, Khalid, and please connect with us. We will definitely discuss something about how to take it further. I think we are almost out of time, but we have one final session. But this is more of the closing remarks for the Soda Forum, and Okay, I think we've already announced this, so I'm going to go quickly. Go. Murli, are you here? Raghavendra, he came. All right, and I think Kunal also we met. For the closing remarks of the SODA forum, now I would like to invite on stage Sainath Mathur, the practice head of compute storage and peripherals, ER R&D, Wipro Technologies, and also the India Outreach Committee lead for the SODA Foundation. Sai, do you have a presentation or are you going to speak? Okay, great, no problem. I just want to ask. Check, yeah, this is for you.
So it was a great event. I have attended earlier also, and I was overwhelmed with the series of sessions that we had. In fact, I mean, we are all grateful to all the people who have taken the interest to come share their thoughts, so many questions and answers. I'm really overwhelmed. On behalf of SODA, I would like to really thank each and everyone on that. Just to put certain things right. So from the SODA specific stuff, what we did today, there was basically container to multi-cloud. The introduction that Sanil and Keshava put us on track. Then we started off with Savita and Akhil giving the container 101. I think before that it was, and after that it was Shiva and Rahul for Multicloud 101, right? Then we had Anvit all through making it very vibrant with his energy, and it's never diminishing, I think. Thanks for that. Yesterday,
I'd like to announce we are going to continue the session for another 2 hours. Who's ready?
We know Anvit on that. He will not need it. We will need. Okay, and then the enriching panel discussion with Keshava, Kamesh, Veena, and Sabri, moderated by Sanil. After that, we had the individual project presentations made by Shushant, Amit, Vishal, Praveen, Tijo, then Joseph, and Devansh. So, I have been part of many of those discussions, but each time I'll see it, there is something more to learn there. Thank you guys for all those presentations. And the last but not the least, where Nikita, Shushrut, and Amit shared how they were able to contribute. I think it's a big motivator for all of us. I have tried contributing many times beyond OC, but I have not been successful yet. Hopefully I will. And thanks to all the audience for the enthusiasm that you guys have shown. And I cannot stop mentioning about the booth. This is the first time I have seen so much of vibrant, it was really of a different order. And that mic also made a difference. But for Ankit's voice. Right? So it was amazing. I hope I hope a lot of people will have joined by now, or at least they would have been enthused to think that they are not doing and they have to do it. It's amazing. Thank you everybody for the great participation.
Thank you so much, Sai. No. So you can just do next, sir. It's okay. Last slide. For closing out the sessions, it's been a pleasure having you here as well. A big round of applause for all the speakers. Thank you, Sai. Yes, please. Thank you to all the speakers who made time to be here at the SODA Forum at OSI. Thank you to all the attendees, especially you who've been here with us throughout the forum and have been patiently sitting, hearing all our talks. And thank you very much to the OSI group as well for conducting this lovely event every year. And a big thanks to all the members of the Soda Foundation team here who've been working seamlessly for the last 2 years now, 2 days. Yeah, 2 years, pandemic, 2 years is still imprinted on my head. But thank you so much to the Soda Foundation team. And with that, my name is Anvit KS. I would like to close this event out. See you again next year and in the next meetups that we'll be conducting. Keep following us on Twitter at Soda Foundation. Join us on GitHub at Soda Foundation. And definitely join the meetup group. Let's call it a night. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend and have a great Dasara.